What is up, RotoGrinders? It is the Pick Six Show. It's a Wednesday night, 8 o'clock on the East Coast. If you're watching live, welcome. To say hello in the chat on the YouTube, hit that like button to subscribe. Myself, John Daigle from ETR, of course, established the run in those season-long streaks. Still knocking out his favorite, the one injury away article. I know you love plugging away on that one. We also have Rich Hribar, Rich Hribar from Sharp Football Analysis, the worksheet as well. Rich, welcome to week 12. Week 12, we're almost to, I guess like the really big turning point is next week. We have to discuss what we're doing with next week. Sometimes we talk Thanksgiving, sometimes we don't. I guess we'll have that conversation off air. Yeah, maybe we'll be on earlier in the week. Who knows? We'll see how that goes down because
we definitely won't be on earlier in the week. I can promise you that.
We won't be on earlier in the week. Okay, so maybe we'll do it Wednesday.
I've actually been next week was one of the weeks I look forward to, and I get to do the show with you guys. But that period of getting to the point of being able to do the show with you guys next week with no buys and the holidays is always an adventure.
For sure. Yeah.
That week and the Christmas week have been too. I've just been ooh, we'll deal with that when we get there.
I haven't looked ahead, but I think, and you guys probably have, is it DeVito versus Dallas? Is that Christmas? Is that what we're getting on Christmas? Oh my
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Yeah. But yeah, same sort of deal.
Maybe Trey Lance. Well, listen, we got a week to let that marinate. Daigle's brine. We let it brine. Let's let it.
The Trey Lance bride is happening. It's absolutely on right now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, what a disaster. I've not looked at the rest of the games, but Detroit, whoever they put that'll be fun. I imagine.
I think it's Detroit Bears, and I believe it's Packers Dolphins.
Okay.
I honestly haven't even looked ahead just yet. I'm trying to enjoy these 6 teams on bye before none come back.
This is Daily Fantasy Sports. We care about today and today only, or this week. We're talking football. Yeah, you mentioned Atlanta, Buffalo, Cincy, Jacksonville, the Saints, the Jets. The Jets can definitely use it. They're on bye as well.
We all need a bye from the Jets too, by the way. They're like the
enough in prime time. Yeah. They're still in the news because they're talking about benching Rodgers, I guess, and they're firing. Everybody new gets fired. It's a big old. I don't know who's a bigger disaster, Rich, the Jets or the Cowboys?
The Jets. I think the Jets expectations wise are higher, right? At least for me, I thought the Jets would be a lot better than they ended up being. Their schedule wasn't hard. Their schedule wasn't hard at all. They were supposed to have a good defense. There's just a lot here. The Cowboys actually bet their under win total, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask.
Is it already cashing? Is it already that you can't lose this point or close to it?
Actually, it might have cashed already.
Hell yeah!
On week 11, week 12.
Actually, no, it hasn't yet. They need to lose one more game, I think.
I would not worry about that.
I like your chances. I do like your chances.
Yeah, shit, they were 3-2. I actually forgot they've lost 5 in a row.
The Saints were 2-0. Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. It was a great time.
Because they played the Cowboys. Yeah,
and Carolina, I believe, and scored 90 points or something like that.
Hey, the Saints are back though. The Rizzler has them back.
Yes, he's got the voice of a coach for sure. Is he this year's? Oh God, what's the guy's name?
Antonio Pierce.
Jeff Saturday.
Jeff Saturday. That was a fun experiment.
I mean, if in those best ball streets in August, if we had known the Saints would be led by Taysom Hill and Marquez Valdez-Scantling by week 11, just what a wild streets they are right now.
I mean, listen, the Millie maker, the guy ended up winning, right? The Millie?
Yes.
He played He played 7 Lions.
Hell yeah.
Of course. Why not?
And Taysom plus MVS correlations.
Amazing.
It's the most incredible lineup I think that I've ever seen win the Millie. And there's a lot of times where the Millie wins and you're like, oh, what the hell was that? But that one is truly special.
We talked about naked Jared Goff last week to soak up the touchdowns. And it turned out that instead, that guy just said, how about I soak up all the Lions touchdowns, defense included?
Let's not talk about the Millie. I got PTSD from the weekend.
You had a hot
week. I should have
week.
listened to Dean. I should have listened to Chief on Crunch Time with me. Play more Lions as opposed to 49ers.
Also, I blew it for you, TJ, too. TJ reached out before the show and asked about the George Kittle on-off splits. And it's like, well, the sample size is really small in CMC. What can we really do about it? And it turns out that fading CMC was the actual move without Kittle.
Would have won by 11 points. The $20 Millie Maker by 11 points with Brown.
Kittle versus it was CMC versus Amon-Ra, right?
Yeah.
Just a straight 1v1. Nothing weird about that at all. That's crazy.
Next time.
And that's the thing, TJ, right? Well, I don't know if TJ's still with us or not, but that's the thing. Like in DFS, we're never, even when you win, and I imagine TJ had a good week and good for him, but he's still
I was one player off of the nuts in Showdown on Monday night too. So it's like I had a single entry, so I still had a really good weekend. Just it's hard not to imagine what could have been.
Right. Plus winning the Millie outside of the actual money, like you get to just moonwalk all over everybody.
and obviously, although he pretends to care about the Millie, he won the movie contest. That's the real Millie in our heart.
That was the silver lining that made me not care about any of the money.
Was that lineup
so happy? My wife was so happy to find out that I won.
Was it the same lineup?
No.
Oh, okay.
It was also a Winston double stack, but it wasn't the same Winston double stack.
10 games this week as far as the DK main slate. 11 games, of course, on FanDuel. You're getting Philly and the Rams. No Pittsburgh or no Cleveland on Thursday. No Cleveland, no Jameis. I don't know what to do. He's my favorite play. I wish he could quarterback. I wish he could just quarterback every single team somehow. If that was somehow possible. He's just an absolute blast. No, I mean like at the same time. Like he's the quarterback for every team, every week, for every
all-time QB.
All-time QB.
His all-time QB.
I just love him.
I love it.
I love his approach.
This isn't even the last Browns Thursday night game we're getting.
Oh boy, really? Are they playing the Jets or the Cowboys later on the Thursday?
I think they play the Bengals on another Thursday night. The last Thursday night game of the year, I believe.
Bengals are a lot of fun, and they just keep finding different ways to. I would like them to make the playoffs just because they're enjoyable, but that's probably not going to happen now, right? Is that where we're at?
They got a shot. It's definitely hurt because of the games, the opponents they've lost to, but they're not completely dead. That AFC final wild card, like those final spots, are going to be like a madness. Like who gets them?
There's going to be some bad teams in the playoffs. That's what I'm hearing. That's what it sounds like. Yeah. Probably.
Yeah, but if the Bengals get in like at the end, they're fun.
On the AFC side, yeah, the NFC is certainly stronger.
At least it's more wide open. The NFC, yes, it's pretty locked down. We'll see what happens in the South and the West because those teams even the Panthers are competing for the playoffs in a way right now.
What? No, Carolina Panthers.
Well, the Falcons could have clinched the division, but they just let this one slip right through the cracks. Let the Bucs hang around, getting Mike Evans back too. So we'll see. I think the Bucs though have a really good chance to sneak in here.
Yeah, seeing Denver currently with the 7th spot in the AFC, Baltimore the 6th, the Chargers the 5, Washington with the 7 in the NFC, with Green Bay in the 6 and Minnesota in the 5. Of course, a lot can change. If this is your first time, where have you been? Week 12, we focus on 3 games. We break it down from all the angles, and we kind of run it back from all the players that we like on the slate that we've not yet discussed in those 3 main games. The very first game we're going to start with, well, it is those Lions. Of course, it's those Lions. In the Dome in Indianapolis. We love a Dome, especially this time of year. We love a 50 total. We're getting that as well. 50.5 to be all specific and technical. Indianapolis is getting 7.5 at home there with Richardson under center for the foreseeable future. John, we're not going to make the same mistake. We just got to play these Lions every single week. And then there's the Colts. The Colts are fun run backs as well. Your assessment, start wherever you want to start as far as Detroit and the Colts.
Quick honorable mentions overview. Did not have the courage to get to the Patriots Dolphins for everyone. We'll talk about a couple plays there, although that could put up more points than expected. And then Bucks Giants is going to be scattered throughout positional plays. We may just talk about that game as a whole as well. So we'll get to those at the end, plus a couple of weaving in and out players. I think we picked the correct 3 games, even if they are the chalk though. Beginning of this one, my issue for the Colts side is that I still really don't have a lean in the way to stack it, except for, once again, perhaps playing Anthony Richardson naked and then Lions on the comeback. The Lions secondary has not allowed multiple touchdowns to any quarterback at any point this season. And since their week 5 bye, which has mostly been without Aiden Hutchinson, they're 25th in yards per attempt allowed. But they also post bye haven't been tested in that stretch. Even their matchup against Jordan Love, remember that rain-soaked game outdoors, multiple drops, including Dontavian Wicks for a touchdown, and Jared Goff wore gloves in that game. And their matchup against the Texans was without Nico Collins, which is not a real NFL offense when Collins is out there, even when he's out there for a negated 80-yard touchdown and only 50% of the snaps. But the Lions do lead the league in man coverage, which is why I believe they're allowing the second most yards per carry to opposing quarterbacks, just allowing them to get there on the ground, which is great for Richardson's outlook. And it's the exact scheme Richardson has unsurprisingly led the league with 28% of his throws 20 yards deep. Just looks up, sees one-on-one, and fires it, which makes him a volatile option, but also a friendly, cheap option if we want to run a lot of lines back on the other side. So I think that's kind of my first idea when looking at this game.
Yeah, Rich, are you going to say anybody to me on the Colts outside of Richardson, or is it the naked again? JT in the backfield, of course, getting a ton of touches, but it's just hard. Pittman, Downs, Pierce, I don't feel great about any of them. Do you like anybody here? Of course, tournament stuff, I guess you can do whatever, but the default here is Richardson naked.
I like Downs for sure. I mean, don't look now, but he has 2 wide receiver 1 scoring weeks the last 2 Anthony Richardson starts. So, and he's down to an 8.7 inaccurate target rate from Richardson too, which is actually lower than Flacco now. So, I mean, the real kind of just like the fly in the ointment for Downs versus Flacco is that just Flacco threw it to Downs every play. And Richardson's been a little more open. Flacco targeted Downs on 36% of his routes. It's just a modest 25% with Richardson. But I mean, you look at Downs, though. I mean, the dude's a baller. I feel like I just don't want to ignore it, right? Like, I mean, he's 8th in the NFL in yards per route run, regardless of quarterback. His yards per route run now between the split is like pretty neck and neck. He's basically had 2 bad games all season that he's played. The bummer is that both sites have been kind of on his pricing because of the Flacco stuff when his ownership was high. And it just, once you go up, you seem to never come down in DFS pricing. So he does cost a little bit to jam in here, but the Lions also have been really soft against slot receivers this year. They're 3rd in yards per target allowed to slot receivers. So there is an opportunity. They don't give up touchdowns to any wide receivers, though, which is the unfortunate part, like Daigle said, because they've only given up 1 touchdown. The most passing touchdowns they've allowed a game is 1. So he's the one guy that I do like on the Colts side, outside of Richardson, just playing him for the rushing upside.
So wait, 1 passing touchdown they give up the entire season to a receiver? Is that
no? They haven't given up multiple passing touchdowns in any game.
Okay. Yeah, I thought
so as a default,
right.
They don't give a lot of passing touchdowns to receivers. They give up a lot of yards and catches to receivers, but obviously not a lot of touchdowns.
We're at this point, I guess we're kind of sort of somewhat expecting Laporta back. We'll see, but I guess we'll talk about it, assuming Laporta's going to be back this week. How are they going to score their 35 points this week, Rich? Detroit's going to...
All of them. Everyone gets one, dude. It's the Lions, man. Like that one guy gamer knew. You play all the dudes. Just all the guys. They spread the ball around. I mean, look at their backfield right now, like the actual season touches for their backfield. Like it's literally dead even. Through 10 games, David Montgomery, 158 touches, 10 touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs, 156 touches, 9 touchdowns. Gibbs obviously has a massive edge in the yardage department because of how efficient of a player he is. But David Montgomery has 21 catches. Jahmyr Gibbs has 23 catches. Like they are kind of just swapping these guys in and out. There's no real kind of game script stuff that we could play into it. Even last week, Craig Reynolds was in the 4th quarter, out here getting carries, man. Yeah,
they're up 50, but yeah.
So, I mean, we got to do a mea culpa though. We owe an apology to the sun god.
Yes,
we do.
Yes.
We had talked about, man, they keep jamming up Amon-Ra's price. He hasn't paid off this price all year. Why is he so expensive? He's $9K. Come on. And then Sun God dropped the 35 bomb. He said, "Oh, you guys need a tournament winning score? I could still get there." This is obviously a really good matchup for him too. Jared Goff actually has faced the 3rd most dropbacks against cover 3 this season. He already has 118 dropbacks against cover 3, which we know Gus Bradley's going to come out and do. And obviously he's been really good. He has thrown 6 of his interceptions against cover 3 this year, but 10 yards per pass attempt, 6% touchdown rate. He's completed 77% of his passes. If he has one more game this season where he completes 80% or more of his passes, he'll break the record. He tied it last week. So he could break that. Sun God and him, I think the official number here, because I don't want to mess this up. Since week 3, Sun God has caught 51 of 54 targets. Seems pretty good.
Good hands.
Seems pretty good.
There's a record for most games where you have an 80% or more completion percentage. That's in the record books?
That's a record? In my record books. I looked it up because I wanted to see. Because I was going. It's everything's a record, dude. You like who fit the most piece of gum in their mouth? I'm sure someone owns it. Like,
give Guinness a call.
Okay. What if that happened to be Jared Goff as well? That'd be incredible.
While playing football, he's multitasking. So most important, we buried the lead, Rich, is that did Jahmyr Gibbs get a carry of more than like 15 and a half yards?
I think it was like his 3rd carry of the game. He beat his over. Come on. You guys know what's up.
Yeah, and the sites are still putting it out there. I unfortunately, my book does not offer such things, but they're still doing it, right? They're still taking the hit.
It's still like until it gets to, I think, Derrick Henry levels, I think you got to keep betting it. And shit, you can keep betting Derrick Henry's too, though. But
John, you have a favorite route as far as the Lions? They're probably going to score a bunch of points.
Rich touched on it. Amon-Ra, obviously. Don't have a lean on the running backs. I keep playing David Montgomery just because he's the one where ownership does not go. And it's still a discrepancy enough on DraftKings, these tighter weeks, especially the past 2 or 3 games. We are a little looser this week, by the way. I should have mentioned that at the top too, where it's gotten a bit easier. The issue is that we're still struggling to find wide receiver values, but hopefully some of that opens up at the end of the week and we're not just jamming 30% Kayshon Boutte again. But for the Lions, I do want to take a stand, and this is going to come back in my face. I do want to be a little underweight on Jameson Williams this week. He has returned from that suspension with 19 and 21% target shares. We talked about his role against man coverage last week in the Jaguars, who schemed that at a top 3 rate. And so it made sense they would get him involved. But I'm still a little skeptical considering like the 4 games around his suspension before that, he still did not pass even 15% of the team's targets. I think it's a very volatile option. And again, that's fine, but he is at a salary point where you lose out if he doesn't hit one of these longer touchdowns. So I think that's one of the options I want to get off of, especially with Laporta coming back.
Yeah, he ended up being really a great leverage play last week because of the guys that ended up being popular in that price range on both sites. Shakir, Jennings, and not that those guys were bad. It was just that JMO was the guy that was in that price zone that wasn't really popular.
His floor is off. It's really rough, of course, if he's not catching that long one. But he can get there, like you say. It's about the target stuff. He can get there in five targets, right? That's the other way. Is like he can catch 3 passes for 120 yards and like get the end zone.
His shortest touchdown this year is 37 yards.
It's incredible.
Wow, that's yeah. When he's in the he's in the clear. When he gets loose, it's he reminds me of that. Remember that guy for the Dolphins, Tyreek Hill? He reminds me of that guy when he gets loose. Remember that guy used to score long touchdowns?
Well, they have
in week 1.
They have similar target shares recently, so maybe they just are the same person.
Yeah. Is it better than Waddle? It might be better than Waddle because Waddle's is really
what isn't better than Waddle?
Waddle is down bad, right? It's really sad what's going on in Miami. Okay. Anything else of note here as far as Detroit and Indy, or shall we move on to game number 2?
We didn't even touch on Jonathan Taylor at all, and I just think I just think I'm mentioning him because he gets quite literally every single touch. Like he is more expensive Chase Brown with 100% of the team's backfield touches in back-to-back games now. But at the same time, we still don't jam running backs against the Lions because even without Hutchinson, their run defense has been spectacular. So, but it's an every touch back. If someone wants to get unique, I will probably go elsewhere, especially because he's right around Achane now. Achane who continues to get priced up accordingly.
Yeah, he doesn't catch passes is the problem,
right?
And that that's the big bugaboo for Jonathan Taylor.
7'1", yeah, like Walker is 6'9", Connor 6'5", Gibbs 7'3", but he's going to be like 10% owned probably, maybe lower. We'll see, but I get it. He's still he can run 2 in. That's possible. All right, let's talk about San Fran. San Fran taking on Green Bay. Speaking of running backs running the ball in, we've not seen just yet. CMC, and again, this is just the dopey me on the couch watching. He doesn't look like the same guy. He's not the same guy. We'll see, kind of working in the form. He still looks good as far as the price. The role, of course, for CMC is spectacular. 8.5, perfectly reasonable on DK. 47.5 is the total here in Green Bay. San Fran is a 2.5 point dog. Yeah, Rich, talk about the Niners. If you want to start with CMC, by all means, go for it.
Yeah, it's gonna be real curious of how the Packers approach this game. Seattle, their game plan last week was to really kind of attack the 49ers aggressively. Brock Purdy faced his highest rate of man coverage in a game this season, 46% of his dropbacks. That is something that's given him issues this season. Against zone coverage, he has completed 73% of his passes. That's 8th in the NFL, 9.6 yards per pass attempt, which is second. He drops down to 26th in the NFL with a 54% completion rate, 7 yards per pass attempt against man coverage. That's 15th in the NFL. I think Seattle really just looked at it and said, like, we're not scared of any of these guys, like, beating us vertically. And the 49ers, with the loss of Brandon Ayuk, they do not have that element in their offense right now. I mean, you go to years past, Ayuk was the guy they dialed up when you're playing man coverage. And as good as Juwan Jennings has played this year, he's not that guy winning downfield, right? Like, so I'm real curious to see if teams start to adopt this, if we see this kind of something that gets adjusted to the 49ers moving forward. The Packers are not an aggressive defense in terms of man coverage. They are also a defense that's completely predicated on pressure. When they have not gotten pressure on the quarterback, they go from literally second in the NFL in yards per pass attempt to 27th. Depending on whether they get pressure or not. It's a defense that's predicated on getting turnovers. So I'm really curious to see just kind of what happens, in that sense with how the Packers kind of approach this, where you got to really kind of earmark to see if George Kittle plays too. In week 3, I was on it with the Jordan Mason was chalk against the Rams and talked about the run splits with and without Kittle. And we talked about it with TJ before the show a little bit last week. And I'm like, CMC's got a really small sample size. He's still CMC, not really kind of worried about with Seattle. And it turns out, Eric Saubert's not George Kittle in the run game. And they just weren't able to generate explosives. I mean, the 49ers running backs now have 72 carries without George Kittle on the field this season. They have a 5% explosive run rate. They average almost a full yard before contact per rush with Kittle on the field. And this is not just a one-year sample. This goes back to Kittle's tenure with the 49ers. So just something to kind of keep an eye on there. And then the other guy who doesn't look right, you talk about CMC not looking right. You know who really doesn't look right is Deebo Samuel.
In the injury.
I don't know if it's since the calf injury or like this dude just doesn't look explosive at all right now. But you can just keep playing Juwan Jennings, then we'll get to the Packers side. But I'm definitely watching Kittle, and I'm real curious to see what the Packers do defensively and how they approach this game.
Daigle, your thoughts as far as the Niners?
Rich pretty much summed it up. Jennings is still too cheap given his role. Like these target shares the past 2 games, 32% and 39%. That's Amon-Ra St. Brown. He needs to be priced up in the mid 7Ks, quite honestly, especially with Deebo doing what he does. And they're even coming off the carries, at least for this last game as well. So yeah, whether we get George Kittle back or not, he said he's going to play. It's just Jennings in this X role, while it is not as explosive, it's a guy who they're doing all kinds of different things with, including moving the chains. Even on 3rd and short, they just put him in a slant route and they'll give it to him because he's so big, 6'3", 215. He can just body his cornerback. So still like Jennings at his price. And McCaffrey just continues to be an interesting pivot point. We do get 19 and 23 touches, and that's why you continue playing him for this high floor. He still looks, just for the film bros, he still looks fine catching the ball. But yeah, between the tackles, it could be a infrastructure thing, like Rich mentioned, without Kittle. So we'll see what happens. I still think he should be a FanDuel price salary on DraftKings. So I'll probably still play him blindly because he's CMC, and I hope from the best for there, just playing his floor. Rich also talked about interested in how the Packers play it. I'm also interested in how the Niners play it too, because remember, this is a divisional round rematch last year, and the Niners didn't blitz Jordan Love at all. And that's because he was amazing against the blitz last year. Literally just 3 of his dropbacks, I believe, 8.5%. And they instead just tried to get pressure without sending extra rushers. But Love this year, if they choose to do so, and again, I'm trying to predict this. I have no idea how they're going to do it.
Yeah, both teams have new defensive coordinators.
Yeah. And so I just don't know, because if they do blitz him, Love has regressed entirely for a variety of reasons. They aren't making the play calling easier for him, Matt LaFleur this year either, but he's regressed entirely against the blitz. 28th in yards per attempt, completed just 55% of his passes against the blitz this year, which is well out of the top 32 quarterbacks in the league. So this is one that I could see multiple paths to it failing, quite honestly, despite there being some pieces here I want to play. Even the Niners, maybe it's because we haven't got everyone at full strength just yet. And again, maybe Debo isn't at full strength. But the whole point of trying to get Christian McCaffrey back outside of him being an amazing player is because they could have another option underneath to stop all the bullshit inside the red zone and finally start punching it in. But even the past 2 weeks, they've scored on 3 of 6 red zone possessions, a touchdown, which would be 25th in the league instead of 28th in the league, which is what they were beforehand. And so we still have issues that do not allow the Niners to reach their ceilings, maybe lingering into this game.
Is San Fran also on the outside looking in? We were talking about playoffs earlier, and maybe their players are going to press a little bit as far as Kittle might come back. Maybe he's not 100%. Maybe Debo's playing through something that's not great either. I was looking at the game log, and that's not like the best way to do analysis, but there's not one game from Debo this year. Like this year, we're like, man, I really wish I played Debo. Not one time. He put up 23 DK points against Seattle in week 6, and that's fine. But did you need him in any week? You did not. Rich, you said explosive run.
I've chased it a couple times.
I have too. Unsuccessfully. Yeah, because I've seen him.
The Cowboys game was the most tilting because he had a 70-yarder called back for our dreaded illegal shift or illegal man downfield, which illegal man downfield needs to be banned or at least widened. This thing is ruining fantasy football.
Talk about Nico Collins.
I didn't care until I had Nico Collins captain on Monday night, and then all of a sudden I cared really much about the rule.
I mean, it's because it's had so little bearing on the actual play. It's one of those penalties that kills me in that regard. Like I get it, you're like, oh, they broke the rule, but it's like that didn't impact the play. I want rules enforced that impact plays. Like when every face mask they don't call that impacts the play, we're not calling those, but we're calling this illegal man downfield on my 70-yard screen pass.
Rich, what do you have as far as Green Bay?
Grind my gears. Jaden Reed's the standout for me of the Packers guys. I know that seems like, hey, play Jaden Reed. But I mean, Jaden Reed is like, kind of mini Debo in a sense because he doesn't get a lot of targets. I mean, he's only had more than 6 targets in a game once this season. But if we're expecting this game to potentially kind of have some upside to it, if it does get there, the 49ers have been really dreadful against slot receivers basically the entire season. Up until last week, they were dead last in yards per target allowed to slot receivers. Now they're 31st. But they've been getting beat up to the slot. We saw JSN put up 10 catches on them too last week. They're getting Charvarius Ward back this week too, who missed the last 2 games on the outside. Real sad story with Charvarius Ward. Tragedy in his family. If you are a parent, then it definitely, it's a tough one. It's a tough story. But they are getting him back. They've been really good against outside wide receivers all season. So Jaden Reed is like another one piece that stands out. I know a lot of people are going to want to chase the Christian Watson stuff because he's getting more usage and he's a big play receiver, but I don't think this is the spot for him. The 49ers have only allowed 11 of 37 passes to wide receivers on throws 20 or more yards downfield to be complete. That's 8th in the NFL. So I don't know if I'm going to chase that. I'm looking more at Jaden Reed amongst the Packers guys.
Yeah, I saw on the ETR, the top 10 waiver stuff you do over there, Daigle, and I'm sure it's because Reed is not available, but your number one guy, and it probably speaks to how the waivers weren't great. Bad waivers this week. Your number one guy was Christian Watson because who else is it going to be? Do we like him in DFS though?
He's rostered in a majority of leagues, or he's borderline. He's one of those 48% guys people aren't sure about. And by the way, they shouldn't be sure about. I play season long different in that my entire team and bench, for the most part, every roster is different, but for the most part, I chase ceiling only. And so I have Watson and Wick stashed pretty much all year long. They've been at the bane of my existence all year long, but I kept them both stashed, understanding that, the moment one of these guys get out of the way, then finally the other will emerge, and I don't know who it's going to be. There is a signal these last 3 games. And Rich already talked about the defensive matchup I was going to mention. And so I could still find myself the way they use Watson as a big-bodied red zone threat, perhaps still getting there. If we don't get much value on this slate, there are some mid-high 4K guys, low 5K guys we'll talk about at positional plays. But Watson, yeah, maybe. But at least for not defensive matchup, on-field opportunity. Yes, there is a signal these last 3 weeks around the team's bye. He's run around on at least 64% of their dropbacks. He comes back with a season high 24% target share. And he's seen at least 19% of the team's targets in 3 consecutive games too. So yeah, they are pretty much boxing out Wicks finally because Watson's at full strength. And we saw even last year when Watson's at full strength, that's a borderline top 12 receiver. That's what he brings to the table. And so we'll see if I get there eventually in DFS. I also want to, it's not the easiest of matchups, I understand, but out of the bye, we also got a season high 84% of the team's backfield touches for Josh Jacobs. Marshawn Lloyd, who's having the most cursed rookie season of all time. He finally gets activated off injured reserve, then suffers appendicitis, put on the NFI list overnight, so probably out for the foreseeable future. And so if we are talking about Jacobs in a lower scoring game as an every touch back, he has been efficient this year, maybe something I look into further.
I'm thinking about my best ball teams. Lloyd, and who was the running back for New Orleans who the coach hated him?
Andrew Miller.
Yeah, I had way too much both those guys, and yeah, a bummer for Lloyd. Just kind of a lost season for him.
It's still good. The process was right on Lloyd. I don't care if my wife left me. The process was right.
You might see some of Miller. The Rizzler was talking Miller up after the firing. So when he's
even after Taysom is the clear that you come on. You got to get the 34-year-old running back / quarterback / tight end / receiver.
I mean, listen, Kendre Miller ain't doing what Taysom did. I know that.
All right. Anything else here as far
how
as
awesome was it too that Taysom threw an interception in that game too and lost the fumbled.
Yeah.
By the way,
all of the first half.
What an incredible box score. What an incredible box score.
Rich, according to my notes, that's a record. Nobody's ever done all those things. That is a record.
Is that fact though, or is that? Did you look it up?
Oh, I mean, you're the one with all the stats. I'm giving you homework. But you're talking about 80% or more, just this number as far as perception completion. But I don't know, maybe like in like the 20s or the 30s or the 40s if somebody did it. But but I feel like it hasn't happened.
Probably, yeah. When everyone just played every position.
Antoine Randall L. maybe did it at some point. I'm not sure, but just throwing that name out there.
The one other guy too, because I know people will try to get there because they chased it last week, is the Ricky Pearsall stuff. Just we've seen since Jennings has come back, Pearsall has run a route on 73% of the dropbacks and 63%. He's literally had one good game, and it came with a touchdown. So if you can catch that touchdown, that's fine. But he's in that kind of same spot where Jennings was, right? Like in that and he's not been as good as Jennings, where you're just kind of lost in like the being the 49ers wide receiver 3, a team that really doesn't play a lot of 11 personnel, they're bottom 5 in the NFL, is just a tough life to live.
I'm guessing Kittle coming back wouldn't be helpful for him, or I guess everybody's like,
it doesn't matter. I mean, Pearsall played a game without Kittle. He played a game without everybody, and then played a game with just him and Debo. Right. So like he had 2 games without Jennings too. So like he's kind of had a run out where we've seen him with like everyone out.
And that touchdown was outside of the red zone. It was that big 46-yarder he scored.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing we didn't talk about with Jennings. Jennings has 7 end zone targets. Debo has 2, Pearsall has 1, Kittle has 8. It's literally those 2 guys down there. I imagine CMC might get something eventually down here because they used to run a lot of arrow routes and, a lot of those Texas routes with him. But yeah, that's the other thing that Jennings has going for him is touchdown equity too.
If CMC's like 30% owned on Sunday, Rich, I mean, are we in on that? Is that good chalk?
I haven't built any lineups yet to see like versus the wide receivers, right? So like last week, and it ended up being wrong, it's just like, man, I really want to get to 3 power play running backs. And there was different running backs I wanted to mix in because I wanted to come off of Kamara for sure. But this week I haven't really seen like kind of what I want to do. I know there are expensive receivers I want to play when we get to positional plays. I just haven't really tinkered with like lineup construction to see if it's like, all right, we got to get out of here.
Yeah, it's really hard to say. So many movable parts, and just Wednesday night game number 3. Arizona.
What's he in optimals? Is he just in optimals?
So it's weird. I'm running some stuff, and I'm surprised we're kind of light on Jennings. I thought Jennings would be the most popular receiver. I'll tell you who's getting pushed, and this is something that might change. Mike Evans, and like I don't know how ready he's going to be, and but like he's hitting some stuff. And it's like, and Keenan Allen is hitting some things.
I'm definitely not playing Keenan. I'm going to play Mike Evans, but well, depending.
And
you scared me there, but
I think Allen is hitting just because he's on DK. He's the 5K cheap wide receiver, and we don't have too many values yet. But again, I think we can find some in positional plays.
I can get talked into a Dunze, but not if he's going to be 30. If he's going to be that dude that's like 30% this week.
So right now on FanDuel, Achane 1, McCaffrey 2, Connor 3 is what I have.
I didn't know Connor was going to be that high. Okay.
39%. So we currently have, obviously, it's Wednesday night, yada, yada. But on DK, Achane is 1, CMC is 2, Connor is 3. So there you go. It's consistent, which is kind of sort of somewhat surprising. But what do you got, John?
Just a quick note for everyone. The weekly Silva calls me, even though I've been doing this show for 5 years.
You just called again?
Oh, yeah. I see it in the corner of my computer right now that I'm getting a call from Evan Silva. Yeah.
We got to get him on speakerphone.
As consistent.
Answer one time and put him on speakerphone and just lash out at him. It's like, don't you know? Like, 5 years I've been doing this show. Is this intentional?
He used to do it. He was on the original show.
Yes.
Hey, I'm live on the Pick Six, and we think it's a funny bit that I do this show, but you still call every week, so I put you on speaker.
All right, sorry. Hey, I hope you guys are killing it, and love you boys, and I'm sure you guys are killing it. I'll talk to you after the show, all right?
Rich says hi, and Dean says hi, and then I'll call you back after the show.
Dean, I miss you. Rich, of course I miss you. All right.
Later, brother.
Love you, brother.
Love you, Silva. All right.
Dean, he said he missed you. Have you overlapped with him?
No. Well, every once in a while I would pop in as a cameo and cover for Crane when he was hosting the show. But we didn't really interact very often. But
Evan got some awesome news today too. I'll let him release it, but Daigle probably knows. But
Silva?
Yeah. So big things.
All right. Well, good for him. Looking forward to hearing some good news. Game three, Arizona at Seattle. Geno Smith, he had some good news last week with basically like a walk-off rush touchdown. That was pretty spectacular. Good for him. Seattle is a 1-point favorite at home versus Arizona. 47.
We didn't talk about that with the 49ers. So this is what's going to happen in the Packers-49ers game. The 49ers will be winning for 3 quarters and then just fall apart in the 4th quarter.
Yep.
That was a disaster.
The opposite.
It's every game, every 49ers game.
And that's the opposite of Seattle, where through 3 quarters, they're unwatchable. And then the last drive or two, then Geno Smith looks good again.
How do we feel about Seattle and Geno, Arizona this week, John? I'll let you start wherever you want to start.
Let's go to Geno again, because in their last 4 games before their bye, the Cardinals, really, they were getting it done on defense, carrying them. 6.2 yards per attempt, the 5th fewest in the league, with only 1 passing touchdown allowed in that time. But it was also a very weak schedule of opposing quarterbacks, and they were still exactly league average in creating pressure. And we know that one of many quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford, Bo Nix, Joe Flacco, Geno Smith is Jekyll and Hyde if you can get pressure on him. A league high 10 interceptions, 32 sacks this year when under pressure. Whereas when kept clean, the 2nd highest completion rate in the league. Even last week against the Niners, we saw that until Nick Bosa exited that game, Seattle could not move the ball at all. And only then were they able to drive the field with ease, including that last drive where Jackson Smith and Jigba had 3 catches. So if we believe Arizona will not get pressure on Geno, then this game does have a little more upside than perceived. And that's kind of the way I'm coming in at it, especially since we did it wasn't the depth of target we wanted that we saw in his 1 game without DK, but we still got a 20+% target share for Jackson Smith and Jigba behind DK Metcalf. And so if you do want to play Geno, you can still know where to go between JSN and DK Metcalf.
Will Geno have that time in the pocket there, Rich, as far as Seattle? It is wild to see Metcalf is only $300 more than JSN. JSN closing and strong. 6'3" for JSN, 6'6" for Metcalf.
Last week they were both 6'5". They were dead even last week. This game I definitely am going to play this in for some upside stances, but this game does scare me a little bit like how the last game scared Daigle, because I just don't know what the hell either of these teams really are. Like these teams feel like they've lived like 3 seasons, like in the course of these like first 11 weeks. it's funny is you have two quarterbacks that have been, one's been arguably the most unluckiest quarterback in the NFL, Geno Smith this year. My metrics, everyone has kind of their own little bit of things, but I show Geno Smith to have the most touchdowns below expectation of any quarterback. I show he should have 6.2 more passing touchdowns, or round it to 6 for you guys.
Wow.
How can you throw 0.2 touchdowns? But it's the most in the NFL. He's thrown. He's 32nd in the NFL in touchdown rate on throws into the end zone. NFL average is 36% of all throws in the end zone are touchdowns. They're caught. 5 of his 22 passes in the end zone have been caught this year. Kyler Murray's at 56%, a career outlier. He's number 1 in the NFL. So like he's actually run a little bit hot in that regard. So you kind of have these
none to his tight ends.
Yeah, none to Trey McBride. Well, Elijah Higgins has one, if it makes you feel better.
The wrong tight end.
None to Trey McBride. And then we're waiting on Arizona to have this regression because all their peripheral metrics are bad. They're bad at getting pressure, like Daigle said. They allow a high completion rate. They allow they're 18th in yards per pass attempt. They're 9th in touchdown rate allowed. They don't give up any passing touchdowns to anybody. And it's just like the one metric that doesn't add up for them. And they faced a really good quarterback schedule over the course of the season, especially in the context of 2024 football. I mean, they faced Stafford, Goff, Purdy, Herbert, Tua, Rodgers, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Jordan Love. This is as good as any team's faced in terms of a quarterback schedule this season. And they're not giving up passing touchdowns. I've chased this Cardinals matchup so many times this year with a pocket passer, whether through Purdy or Goff, Tua, when he came back from his injury in Miami. And just like these guys are not getting there. It's the ultimate bend but don't break defense. They are dead last in success rate against the pass. They're just not giving up touchdowns. It's so maddening. I think it was Daigle a couple weeks ago that chased the Rodgers double stacks. It's like so frustrating that they just continue to keep teams out of the end zone. And on the other side, I don't know what to stock with the Cardinals because the 2 games before the bye, Kyler Murray had 67% and 62% of his passing yards come after the catch, his 2 highest rates in a game this season. And like, that's not a team that's full of like yak-centric guys that we believe in. And then Mike McDonald has started dialing up like a ton of man pressure that we alluded to earlier with Brock Purdy in that game last week, but they're now top 5 in man coverage rate the past 5 weeks. And Kyler is another one of these guys that has super pronounced splits against man and zone coverage. I mean, he's 5th in the NFL in completion rate against zone coverage, 8.4 yards per pass attempt is 11th, but then he goes down to 22nd in completion rate and only 4.8 yards per pass attempt against man coverage. Only Bryce Young has a lower yards per pass attempt man coverage than Kyler Murray. So I don't know really what to make out of either of these teams, right? Like these are 2 wild card teams that I just can't get my finger on the pulse to either one.
Would you feel better about this game? Maybe it's just me subconsciously. If this game was in Arizona in the Dome as opposed to Seattle, I feel like I feel distinctly better about it. Maybe that's silly, but the elements.
I think it is supposed to rain, which doesn't matter as much because we care about wind. But I think Roth had showers for this game.
It's funny. I was going to pull it up, and I'm like, he's not going to, 4 days in advance. I guess he already has something out there.
I think he had stuff up because I wanted to check out the Browns game for Thursday night stuff. Early, and I think I saw the Cardinals Seahawks on there for rain, but
we don't talk weather obviously.
And it doesn't.
But I'm just saying, like, keep your eyes on it. We're not going to dig into.
No, but like obviously, if it's indoors, like you feel like there's just nothing to worry about. But
safer.
Let's see. Scattered showers possible yellow is what he currently has. It's a yellow orange in Cleveland, by the way. So I guess you could tell us that. Right?
And the other thing too is like Seattle, they suck at running the ball. Like they are awful. Like only the Raiders are worse. They have a worse EPA per rush than the Seahawks. And that's like typically where we want to attack Arizona, right? Like they're a team that is giving up, the all 21st in rushing points on, 25th in receiving points on the backs. That's where kind of Kenneth Walker saved his fantasy season this year. He has this newfound receiving role in terms of, being on the field now for snaps. He was never on the field for his first 2 seasons. But out of 28 running backs to 100 or more runs this season, he's 24th in yards per carry. He's 21st in success rate. He's 26th in explosive run rate. They have not been a good running team all year.
That's why, Dean, you mentioned like the James Conner ownership. I came into this expecting to tout James Conner, but I also didn't realize 25, 30%. And so now I'm going to make the inverse argument and let everyone know that in their 2 games around the bye, also against divisional opponents, that the Seahawks, maybe they're still a sieve in the running game, but because of the way Mike McDaniels has changed things up, like Rich alluded to, they have at least limited Christian McCaffrey and Kyron Williams to just 3.6 yards per carry and no touchdowns. They maybe just be getting better since they were so damn bad against the run prior to that, 5.2 yards per carry allowed. So there is a reason, if he's coming in at high ownership, that James Conner now, who had just one top 12 finish in fantasy prior to that game before the bye against the Jets, and he did that because he had that big catch for 80 receiving yards, which were the 3rd most receiving yards he's had in his career, and the first time he's been over 70 since the 2021 season. So, yeah, I could then now suddenly see myself easily getting off James Conner.
Just trying to see the guys that are around him. On DK, Connor is 6'5". Connor or Montgomery? I think we want Montgomery over Connor. I think you guys tell me.
Yeah, I think so. Well, yeah, if we're talking like ownership leverage too.
Yeah, Hubbard 6'6", but I don't think we want that.
Not playing Hubbard. Yeah. Not playing Hubbard.
Are we for sure? Or we don't know just yet as far as getting Brooks back this week.
I don't think it matters.
Don't care.
To me, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter either way. Okay.
No. Yeah, you don't play running backs against the Chiefs. The theme of this show is we are very skeptical against the Chiefs, Ravens, Vikings, and Lions when it comes to running backs, especially the Chiefs and Ravens, though. Literally don't play anyone.
Yeah, Jones is 6'4" against Chicago. Stevenson is 5'9" versus Miami. There's not a lot to love in that.
There's a dude I like in that. Well, he's actually a little cheaper than that, but we'll get there.
Is he 5'2"? Yeah, we're going to talk about the same guy.
But I actually don't mind JSN even if he doesn't have the same run out that he had these last 2 weeks. Like Daigle said, he kind of reverted back to the same usage in terms of route distribution that he had with DK Metcalf early in the season. Like he lost all those downfield targets. 66% of his targets were within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. But he does get this matchup against, Arizona. They have been worse against slot receivers all year long. So I do think because Arizona plays a ton of zone and they play bend but don't break, which is kind of what I alluded to earlier. They're very passive, but they don't give up big plays. They've actually allowed the lowest rate of 20-yard pass plays in the NFL because they just try to not lose the game on a play. Right. That's why their record's so good. They're actually number 2 now in the NFL in sacks plus turnovers allowed on offense too. So like they're just playing a very tried and true style of don't turn the ball over, don't give up huge plays, be in a shot to win, be in a position to win games, right? Like the Chargers are doing the same exact thing and having success, but they have been worse against slot receivers because of that. So I do think JSN, because I think we're gonna get the dropbacks, like I said. I just don't think Seattle can really run the ball effectively.
Yeah, hearing you mentioned JSN right at the end, I was thinking maybe we're just gonna get a bunch of 7-8 yard passes for him, and I'm thinking player props in my head. I don't know what his number is, if it's 5.5 or 6.5, but maybe it feels like he might be the better play than Metcalf, at least from that perspective. Of course, Metcalf theoretically can be more explosive when he gets loose. I had this sliding doors moment. We were talking about the Jets. We're talking about Geno. What if the Jets just never gave up on Geno? Has anybody ran that back? He's just been the quarterback there for the last 10 years. I
saw someone pose the hypothetical if they just stuck with Darnold. At this point, that's. But they tried it with Zach Wilson. It didn't work. They tried to stick with him.
Just sort of popped in my head. I'm like, they probably could be. They would probably be better. They'd probably be better.
It's one of. I always think too, those players end up being better for it, right? Like Geno probably never manifests there, but the fact that he got in a different environment, although he went to 2 different places before, or at least one. He's the one that ended Eli Manning's streak. Remember, they benched Eli Manning for Geno Smith.
Yeah.
That's also why Ben McAdoo was a visionary, by the way. Everyone was upset about Ben McAdoo, but 1, no one else would have benched Eli in the face of adversity. And 2, no one else, only Andy Reid was the only other coach to see that Patrick Mahomes was a star quarterback in the making. Ben McAdoo wanted to move up for him in the draft.
I think, wasn't it Cal Ripken who benched himself when he had that streak? I think Cal Ripken basically said, I stink right now. You got to take me out. The manager. Was it his dad at the time? And dad was his manager for a while. I don't know if he was the manager, but it's hard to say. It's hard to end that streak. Records, I guess, is the theme of this show. It just sort of seems to be something that keeps popping up. Anything else here? I think if you're going to do something, I'm going to probably stack this game, like Daigle said, for at least a small field and see what happens if it pops. Be a little more cautious, but I think
just something like JSN plus McBride, I think is an easy, just like mini to try to get a piece of this.
Gino or Kyler?
I like.
No, I just want to do like the isolated.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm like my favorite thing is something like that versus either quarterback, because I think my quarterback pool is pretty deep, man, and I'm trying to get it down. I mean,
okay, I have a smaller quarterback pool this week, actually.
Yeah, I
but
probably
maybe,
won't get it down.
Maybe
but
I'm a little skeptical
for the rushing, right? Like his rushing's been a little more consistent, but I don't really have a huge pushback.
You got to make room for DeVito.
I'm dead. I'm playing DeVito.
We are 100%. We're 100%.
Say that with confidence. Say it with confidence.
I didn't say it with confidence. I didn't say it with confidence.
It's
4K, dude.
Okay.
I would play you and Daigle stacked up on top of each other for 4K against the Buccaneers.
Quarterback, I would suggest you not play me. But at receiver, no, not a receiver. Never mind. Don't play me anyways. Can't do it.
Yeah. I mean,
I think I'm still going to have a little bit of Geno doubles with McBride. That's my favorite way to play it with DK and JSN, because if the game pops, I would imagine that's how it does. I understand McBride has not scored a receiving touchdown. I would imagine he's due in this spot, but we say that every single week. Seahawks allowing sixth most points to tight ends in fantasy, plus McBride. Just look at all the metrics. It's 20% of the team's targets in 5 of his last 6 games. He's the only tight end running around in over 80% of dropbacks this year. He's 3rd in target share. He's 3rd in yards per route run behind George Kittle and Brock Bowers. All the metrics suggest he should have scored 5 touchdowns by now, and he has none receiving.
He had that 1 yard reverse at the goal line. Is it the only?
He did have the reverse that the week I had James Conner. Thank you for reminding me.
And he recovered a fumble too, right? Didn't he recover a fumble?
He did. And I believe I had the receiver that week. Was it Marvin Harrison Jr. that fumbled it? I believe I had the receiver that week he recovered it from.
I don't remember who it was who fumbled, but I remember I'm like, oh, I got a touchdown, but and I saw the play.
0 yards, yeah.
Yeah.
We stuck on for Bowers. Bowers broke the seal, and he's just been in the end zone like every week since. So we just need to get McBride 1. Once he gets 1, the rest will come.
What was his target percentage last week? 40% or something?
Bowers, yeah, he's got 2 games with 40% target shares.
Yeah. Geno, by the way, is the most popular quarterback right now that's hitting my stuff. Geno,
from a projection stance, he always projects for so many attempts, right?
Yeah.
Because I think he's been the chalk guy for the last 5 weeks for optimal stuff. He's always floating around there.
Geno, Daniels, Kyler.
Jameis has been taking that crown recently too, because now he's the cheaper Geno with 40+ attempts.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't know what to do, because he's playing on Thursday night. Gonna have to those showdown streaks for sure. All right, we're gonna run it back, give our favorite plays position by position in just a second. Do want to mention RotoGrinders Premium. We have a sale going on for a limited time. Get your first month of combo access for $79.99. That's not just football, baseball, basketball, hockey. I say baseball. There's no baseball going on. You know what I mean, though. Yet golf, MMA, everything with the exception of NASCAR, Optimizer, the bells, the whistles, the articles, all the good stuff. First week is $79 and change. Also want to mention, if you just want to win yourself some RG Premium, do not forget to join the RG Listener League. Play along some viewers, myself, some other hosts. Get your it doesn't cost anything to play. It's free to enter. The link will either be in the description. Maybe a producer, TJ, will drop it in the chat as well. I think it's limited to 200 or so. Take it down, finish first on DraftKings, and let us know, because sometimes we just can't find you. We can't really track you down. Well, let us know. We'll hook you up with not a week, but a month. You get a month of RotoGrinders Premium. So do join that contest. Okay. Who had the big quarterback pool? That was Rich. No, let's go to John first, because this pool was smaller.
Much smaller.
Quarterback pool.
There's a lot of division games on tap. So although I like Geno, I feel like divisional opponents keep screwing me over the last month. So I'm skeptical of the games this week, but I do like a couple. And let's start, even though it's a division game, you got to play it before we see it. And I think it's the week to play Jaden Daniels. It is simple enough to say it's the Cowboys defense, allowing even in Micah Parsons' 6 games this year, a league high 8.5 yards per attempt. But also, more importantly, we get 10 days rest through this rib injury. And I think that rib injury is why he's completed 59% of his passes, as opposed to before then, 76%. So again, you have to play it before you see it. But maybe it's a week like the Lions last week where you just play all the Commanders and they score all the touchdowns. And then we get Trey Lance versus DeVito on this show next Wednesday night. Can't wait for that. And then the other one, I'll take DeVito, since Rich mentioned other quarterbacks. But for DeVito, it's now 5 of the last 6 games against the Bucs before they went into the bye, at least 23 fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks. The outlier was Spencer Rattler, who was benched in that game. Also recall last year in his 5 starts, DeVito, 5.5 carries, 31 rushing yards per game, and the only 4 mobile quarterbacks, and Todd Bowles has played the elite ones to defend him, but the only 4 mobile quarterbacks he's faced this year, and that includes Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, they did all at least score a touchdown or over 50 yards rushing. So I think there are just lots of ways to DeVito to get there at 4K.
Is there a lot of buzz, Rich, in the industry? You know, my brain doesn't really fully turn on to football until Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm thinking a lot of basketball and the kind of like prepping for the show. I've not really heard a lot out there, but like he's 4K and like he does have some legs. And, you know, salary's been kind of tricky on DK, especially this year. Is he going to get steamed up like 5-10% DeVito? Is that
I think it all just depends on roster construction, which I haven't tinkered with, right? Like I haven't seen, like Daigle said it's looser. Like I haven't really messed around to see how necessary it is, right? Like if he's not necessary, he won't be, because I do think there are a lot of good quarterback plays on the board, right? I feel like he'll get, if it's a necessity, then people will get there. But I like that game in general. I like both sides of it. I do have some fun Jaden Daniels stuff. I'm with Daigle. I do like Jaden Daniels a lot too, if you have the salary to afford it. I think I've been talking about this in the worksheet literally for 2 months, is the schedule. That one thing is the schedule the Commanders have played. He literally had the easiest schedule through 6 weeks of the NFL. And it kind of built like this false sense of like what he was going to be for fantasy, I think. But then the past month, he's faced 3 top 10 defenses: the Bears, the Steelers, the Eagles. Like easy regression spot. Like we don't have to blame the ribs even, I don't think, on it. And then, you know, his offensive coordinator, like we've seen the horizontal raid was back, dude. Like, it's been a while since we've been able to go in on Cliff Kingsbury, but last Thursday, 3.6 air yards per throw. That's his lowest rate in a game this season. He threw 31% of his passes 5 or more yards downfield. It was the lowest rate for any quarterback in a game this season. Not him, anyone. So it's like it's just the horizontal raid was fully back. They faced some hard opponents. He's not going to. People were talking about him running. His scramble rate on Thursday night was right in line with the season rate. He just didn't get any yards on him. He played a better defense. Like, you know, now he's getting a Cowboys defense that stinks. Like, so yeah, if you got the salary for that, like definitely go up and pay for him. I do have a fun stat on Jaden Daniels too. He's the only quarterback this season that started every game that has not thrown a touchdown pass on a throw that did not go in the end zone. So he's had terrible luck too. Actually, only Geno Smith I have worse than him in terms of expected touchdowns. He's got 5 completions where guys got tackled at the 1 yard line and they did not throw a touchdown afterwards. It's the most in the NFL. So he's had really crummy luck. Eventually that's going to shift back too for him.
He's the Saquon Barkley of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah. And Nick Sirianni, did you hear him talk about the tush push? And he actually had a really good answer for why they don't like they said, well, they asked, like, do you ever just want to get Saquon one? And his answer after like a long-winded Nick Sirianni response was essentially like, if we run the tush push, even if it doesn't work, we don't lose yards. He's like, you're not gonna, like, the odds we lose yards are very small. Whereas like if you have a handoff, like, so he said that's basically why they continuously call it, because it's not going to result into a negative play.
He's right.
Daniels looks like he's going to be pretty popular this week as well. Geno is going to be popular. Daniels is going to be popular. We mentioned DeVito, 10%. He was the 4th most popular guy. So I had Daniels, Geno, Mahomes, and then DeVito. You got the gift. I'm surprised.
It's Panthers, and so like I don't mind it, but like he's expensive though, isn't he? He's the 2nd highest priced quarterback on DraftKings, is he not?
He's 6'8" on DK. Is that the 2nd highest? I don't have all the quarterbacks.
Yeah, because Lamar's on Monday night and Hurts is on Sunday night.
But it's really squished, right? Well, I know DeVito's 4K, but It's kind of so like.
Well, I just said
tight
you
end
removed
Randall.
the big dogs. The Hurts is
Yes.
not on the slate, and Lamar's not
No
on
Josh
the slate. And
Allen.
Josh Allen's on bye. And
Future
Burrow's
MVP
also
Josh
on bye.
Allen. I think he's the favorite now. I'm pretty sure he jumped ahead with that victory.
Well,
Shout out to John, by the way. You had I think you touted Buffalo winning that game, right? I think you had a ticket, if nothing else, to win that game. Yes?
Yeah. It was but also that was I feel like it was a false win because that really seemed like a regular season Chiefs game where they were playing with their food because they know they'll play this game again come January. Like the fact that even Romo came out before the game and said, and we know broadcasters, when they talk about what players the coaches want to get schemed up for, that means the coaches told them that in their pregame meetings throughout the week. And apparently he said before the game that Andy Reid really wanted to start getting Xavier Worthy involved. And then you saw like Travis Kelce also 2 catches despite historically dominating Sean McDermott. It seemed like a really just like fake out Chiefs game more than anything.
KC playing the long game. That's something people have accused Romo of doing that. And like you said, that they had those meetings. And I think there's sort of this kind of like, don't say anything. Don't tell a team that we're going to run a fake punt. But like people have accused Romo of like, he knows these things are coming and he passes it off as if it's some kind of analysis. Like I can see it coming. Have you guys heard this about the accusations on Romo?
I didn't know those accusations. Romo was good this past week for Chiefs Bills, by the way. He was better than the real game, actually. Even though that Josh Allen game, the carry to seal it, was pretty hot. Whereas, like, Tom Brady's now doing the roller coaster. He's gone inverse, where he started too slow, and then they figured out how to set him up, and he started teeing off. But now, and I don't know if it's the ownership thing. I have no idea. But now he's like too safe, which is what I always feared. He says absolutely nothing that you learn from now when you listen to him.
Well, yeah, the all the restrictions he has because he owns a piece of the Raiders, which is a bummer. Yeah, I like Romo, to be clear. I didn't mean to make it seem otherwise. I think Romo is actually really good.
I didn't.
I know some people say
I didn't, but he's been better.
Yeah, I enjoy him in the booth. Quarterbacks, Rich, anything else as far as quarterbacks?
All of them.
Yeah. Well, I still have 3 on the list after the guys that Daigle names. And we talked about Goff. We talked about potentially Richardson, some tournaments, and the other stacks. The obvious one, I think, is Bo Nix, right? Like Bo Nix, past 7 games, 21.5 fantasy points. He's been really good from a clean pocket. He's been on the Jared Goff plan, right? Like Sean Payton's got him very much on the, dude, you're going to throw this ball 5 yards downfield. It's going to be a high percentage throw. We're going to let some guys make some stuff after the catch. But from a clean pocket over that 7-game stretch, he's completed 75% of his passes, 8.2 yards per pass attempt, to 6.3% touchdown rate. All those are top 10 in the NFL. Raiders are 26th, or we're 26th and 28 teams last week in pressure rate, or when these teams met in week 5, that is. They only pressure around 19% of his dropbacks. And from a clean pocket in that game is 18 to 25, 197. He had 23 fantasy points in that game as well. The only bummer is that now that they've got him on the Goff plan, he's not running as much, but that's okay. We'll trade it off for the passing efficiency. I still think Tua's in another really good spot at home against the Patriots team that we saw them have that good outing a couple weeks ago against Caleb Williams, but Matthew Stafford, 28 points last week. Mason Rudolph, 18 the week before the Caleb game. Aaron Rodgers, 17.5 the game before that. They're another team that just can't get pressure on the quarterback. Another good spot for Tua at home, high team total. And then the last one is across from DeVito is Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, since they lost Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, he's dead last in the NFL in quarterback rating, targeting wide receivers. Naturally, he's only completed 58% of his passes to wide receivers, 6 yards per pass attempt. Getting Mike Evans back is massive because even while he was doing that, he was still scoring fantasy points. He saw 2 QB1 scoring weeks over that span. Like, this is an offense that's scoring a lot of points regardless. Every week of the season, they're getting into the 20s. I think they have 24 or more in every game but one this season. And then he's getting this Giants defense that really, we're in another part of the season where like the Giants are packing this thing in down the home stretch, man. When they haven't gotten pressure on the quarterback, the Giants have a lot of league high 81% completion rate. They're 31st in yards per pass attempt. So definitely like Baker a lot this week.
Yeah, it's tricky to say, and I guess we'll get there as far as receiver, but do we assume Evans is just going to, bounce right back to his normal role? And
he claims that he claims he could have played before the bye, but they were using it as like an extra week. But yeah.
I also, don't view remember, because he had the hamstring injury going into that game and still was playing at full strength.
That's what scares me about Kittle, because Nico did the same thing.
Yeah. I don't view that, though, as they learned their lesson. I view it as they're just going to do it again. But maybe it could be volatile. But, when you have a
I don't think he's a cash game play, Evans, by any means.
No.
I mean, you look at before his injury, he had a team high 26% target rate in the red zone, 50% of their end zone targets. He's only a very small sample. He's only run since the start of last year 60 routes with Chris Godwin off the field with Baker. But he's been targeted on 31% of those routes, 3.5 yards per route run. So, I mean, the Giants, another team we just target like every week. I mean, they're 28th in yards per target allowed to opposing wide receiver ones. They've allowed 11% touchdown rate to wide receiver ones, the highest rate in the NFL. So if you're talking about like catching touchdowns, like that's what Mike Evans does.
Maybe we should have talked about that game. There's a lot of plays in that game.
Well, my favorite play I haven't even brought up yet in that game.
Okay. Well, we might get there soon.
I think if we knew Evans was Mike Evans and he's 7K on DK, I think he's a cash game play. We just don't know.
Right.
Without Godwin. Yeah. But if all you knew was it's Mike Evans 7K versus the Giants and it's Mike Evans we know.
Yeah, with no Chris Godwin.
Yeah. I think he's an awesome play, but we'll have to fire up the coach speak.
And it's not like Mike Evans have been like we've done the Mike Evans hamstring dance a lot of times the last decade.
It's right there with T. Higgins, right? It's who's more likely to finish the game. At least, I thought he caught that touchdown. He didn't catch the touchdown, right? I think wasn't that a drop touchdown when he got hurt on Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, whatever it was.
No, I think he did.
It was Monday night. He had a touchdown and then then the hamstring he did have in his hands.
Yeah, and he had to grab at his hamstring. It was hurting too much, I guess. But I thought maybe he went out of champ. But yeah, he's future Hall of Famer. There's no besmirching Mike Evans here. All right. We're good as far as quarterbacks. Rich, do you have any more in your back pocket?
No, that was it. But I mean, like I said, that like right now I'm at like 7 to 8 guys on the list.
Yeah.
Get this thing down.
Knicks, are you ready to declare Knicks is like officially good as Denver found their future quarterback, their franchise quarterback? Are we not ready to declare that?
I think they've catered to him. He's improved. He's definitely developed. But I think it's been an easier schedule. And Sean Payton, Rich called it the Sean Payton offense. I call it the Dan Lanning offense. Whatever it is, they found Knicks' strengths.
We were clowning on Sean Payton last year for making his cameo appearance as the janitor.
I still that. He's out here taking
his
bong
movie,
rips.
right? Wasn't it
He's
like
out here
Sean
taking
Payton
bong
movie?
rips. He's taking bong rips, and his son's friends like, watch me get out of these dudes to pick up Andre Estime. Yeah. Wait, you see the power I have.
So, I feel like we're going to go to running backs, and maybe we're going to be I think you teased somebody in this Denver game. Speaking of Sean Payton,
maybe you didn't. Game.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought I was hearing something else.
Abdul either, although that might happen. That might be a thing at some point this week.
I thought I heard 5'2" on DK. Yeah, well, Madison.
Oh, does Daigle have a guy 5'2"? Is my guy 5'2"? I don't know what he is.
No. I was gonna tout Javonte Williams. And
you're going in, yeah.
Yeah. Just because we need value, and unless you have someone cheaper than that, that's as far as I can get though. Because yes, we did get the rug pulled. Javonte Williams with only 9 carries last week, but still over 50 yards and a touchdown. And the last 2 games around their bye, it's over 100 yards from scrimmage to Chase Brown and Devon Achane, and with a touchdown as well to both players. In terms of running backs, Estime, gets involved for 6 carries, but even Jaleel McLaughlin and Marvin Mims got carries ahead of Estime. So I don't think anyone's coming for Javonte's role. So I just view Javonte as a leverage option over Bo Nix. That's how I'm seeing it, especially because we may need the salary.
Do you want to keep going as far as running backs in your list?
Yeah, I got quite a few. Devon Achane is an easy one. Everyone's going to play. Yep. I don't know if go ahead.
No, I just said, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't know if they know what's going on behind the scenes, but ever since that third quarter fumble a couple weeks ago for Raheem Mostert, although Jalen Wright's the one getting early down work now, it all it did was surge up Devon Achane. Now, for the first time all year, 70% of the team's backfield touches in both games. I would argue only Christian McCaffrey has a better role than Devon Achane. That includes Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry in terms of fantasy running backs. That's why DraftKings finally bumped Achane up to third highest salary, I believe he is right now on the slate. But he's a guy who should just continue to mirror McCaffrey's salary all year long. I'll play him. Brian Robinson, I mentioned playing all the Commanders. We saw 16 carries for Robinson in his first game back from injury, and 17 touches, which matched his highest mark since before his first injury. We know the Cowboys now leaking the most points per game, right in front of Carolina to opposing running backs. So if you're trying to soak up all these touchdowns, I think we saw enough from Brian Robinson. Now we get 10 days rest to believe he's back at full health. And then the other one that is not cheaper than Javonte. So I don't think this is Rich's guy. I like Bucky Irving.
Yeah, that was my guy.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just pass it to you then. You go ahead and tell your pool.
Yeah, I mean, Bucky Irving, I think, is for a point per dollar play is my favorite running back, I think, in the entire slate. Ooh. He's already had more rushing attempts than Rachaad White in each of their past 3 games. He's the only running back on the roster. It's 50% of the backfield touches in all those games. Among all running backs at 50 or more runs in the season, he's 6th in yards per carry. He's 14th in success rate. He's 8th in explosive run rate, 6th in stuff rate, 6th in rate of runs that go for a first down or touchdown. He's 3rd in yards after contact per rush. And literally, we saw it in Germany. Germany got a firsthand experience of Chuba Hubbard just running through the Giants defense. They've allowed a league high yards per carry to running backs. We haven't seen the Bucs play with positive game script, I think, since Bucky Irving has taken over the rushing role in this offense. And I think this could be the first time that we actually get it.
I'm sure if you mentioned it, but Tucker did not have a carry last game. Is the 3-headed monster no longer a thing going forward? Are we projecting him out most likely, or maybe a touch or two, if anything?
He got a raw deal, man, because he was awesome in that one game. Literally finishes the overall. I think it was the RB1 on the entire week
against the Orleans.
Yeah, whenever he got that start in place for Rachaad White, but since then, just genuinely not a factor. Yes, it was 0 touches before the bye, but even before then, I don't think he was at 13 total. I think it was he just literally went right back to the bench.
Yeah, his agent should have got him a deal. Somewhat like a 5-day window, 6-day window.
He was good. He was really good that week too.
Yeah. Let's see. Anybody else as far as running backs? Rich, got anybody else on your list?
No, I mean, that's the one wild card in that game that we didn't hit on is Rachaad White, and he's hard to figure out because I think he's lost the lead. He's not lost touches. He's still going to be a split backfield, but he's been overtaken in the running game by Bucky Irving. And then we just don't know where his receiving role is going to lie with Mike Evans coming back, because every touchdown he's caught this season has been since Mike Evans' injury. He's been targeted on 11% more of his routes with Evans off the field than he was before. So it's just really kind of hard to figure out because they are still going to be missing Chris Godwin. That part's still going to be something they didn't replace. So it could be a situation where it's just Evans, Otten, Rachaad White, and then dudes. So we have to see what shakes out. It could be Jalen McMillan back in that kind of role that we thought he was going to be in when Godwin first got hurt, but then he got hurt and wasn't in it. Do they move Sterling Shepard into that role? There's a lot of things to kind of watch with this Buccaneers team out of the bye, especially from a rest of the season long stance, because obviously people had just been playing Cade Otton too. We also have to see what happens with Cade Otton because he took all those red zone targets and end zone targets that Mike Evans left behind. Since Evans and Godwin went out, Cade Otton has 46% of the red zone targets, 50% of the end zone targets. Those are the rates I just gave you for Mike Evans when he was on the field with Godwin. So there's a lot to watch, I think, with Tampa Bay coming out of the bye and give us some kind of signal for the rest of the season.
Does anybody have a take on Ramondre? I'm a sucker for volume. 20 carries in three of the last 4 weeks. Don't really love the offense, obviously. A little bit of work in the pass game as well. Pretty fair price at 5.9. Anybody interested in Stevenson? Doesn't sound like it. Doesn't look like it. Looking at your faces. Meh.
I just think I prefer the options we listed because I don't think Javonte and Bucky and Brian Robinson are getting too much ownership, honestly.
Fair enough. I've not. Let's see. Let me pull up as far as what we have. Achane, Connor, CMC, Robinson, the fourth most popular at 34%. Okay. Pollard, 24%.
No.
Gibbs 13, Walker 10, Mixon 10. We didn't mention Mixon, the best running back in football. Like, just keeps doing it. At 30, I was told you're supposed to combust, especially when you're changing teams. But I think he's 30, right? Close to 30 if he's not 30. Good for him. He's been awesome for Houston. But I guess we have – go ahead.
I wish we could see his floor at any point. Like, we did get the Lions game where he had 25 carries, less than 50 rushing yards. He still got there, though, with 40 yards and a touchdown. So, like, at some point, we have to see, like, what his floor is. I don't think that's it, but honestly, maybe it is. Maybe he is just the best running back in all of fantasy.
Yeah, define.
And they're probably going to have game script. Game script's going to be in his favor again this week. So
yeah, it should be a home game versus Tennessee. Yeah, and probably a couple turnovers where you get the ball in positive, at the 20 or something like that to start a drive. Feeling pretty good about his chances to get in the box.
The other guy too in that game too. I mean, Tyrone Tracy. We don't know what is going to come out of the bye, but Buccaneers are allowing the most points per touch to running backs this season, so he's also on the board. Listen, that's the game, dude. Bucks, Giants.
Should have talked about that one.
Ugly game special. We talked about it. We did. We talked about it.
6K. They're still meeting that bone there for Tracy. That works for you, Rich.
I mean, just on the board. Like, I didn't really go through. I watched the vampire movie before this, and I just wrote guys down. So I haven't really seen all the pricing this week.
Fair enough.
What is Bucky Irving? What was his price, by the way?
56, I believe. Right, Dean?
He's 5'3" on DK. White is 5'4".
Yeah,
and Tracy's 6K. Yeah.
What is Bucky Irving on FanDuel?
Give me 1 second. I have that as well.
Maybe that's the 5'6". I thought I saw 5'6" somewhere.
He might be 5'6" over there. I am scrolling, and he's 6'8". He's 6'8".
Okay. They're always on top of it.
6'9" for White, 6'7" for Tracy. As far as running backs in that game,
FanDuel has Saquon on the board too. Geez, they must have a ton of expensive running backs.
Let's see my FanDuel stuff. All right, I'm pulling up salary. Yeah, Saquon is 10K, CMC 9.5, Mixon 9.3, HN 9.1,
wow.
Gibbs 8.6.
They have 4 guys that were 9K.
Yes.
You're supposed to build lineups over there.
Wasn't HN in the 6s and the 7s to start the season? Am I making that up?
Yeah, he was in the 7s on FanDuel. I think the 6s on DK. He's 9K too over there.
9.1.
God, they are not giving you any leeway.
Nope.
That's
and 6.8 on Bucky.
God, that's going to be just a 2v2. That's just going to be get the correct running back right over there.
This is why Zach Ertz is the most popular tight end I have.
Hunter Henry. It's a Hunter Henry week again.
Why not?
And Odunze is the most popular receiver, and Pittman's second.
Odunze is cheap. He's really cheap over there.
To be fair, I think Odunze makes more sense than FanDuel and DraftKings.
Yeah, he's 5'4". That's a really good price. He's 5'4" over there. DJ Moore is 6K. Chicago.
No, we're not doing DJ Moore behind the line of scrimmage targets.
I
mean, at least Odunze, it's not quite like the Butte thing from a week ago. I mean, he had in his first game with Thomas Brown 32% of the team targets. He's now been at 29%, 19%, 23%, and at 32% his 4 games since the bye. He's the wide receiver 9 in target share, or 9 in air yards and 15th in target share. So I at least can see it. They're going to have to drop back, but Thomas Brown's plan the first game was just to have Caleb Williams get rid of the damn football.
That was Dolphins offense.
Dude, we're running screens. We're doing we're moving you around. We're not going to do this drop back pass game because we can't block anybody.
Were we impressed?
Not really, but Caleb, for as bad as it's been, I think for the eye test, Caleb's done enough things where I'm I can still see he's done enough good things. He's had over the past month 2 money drives. He was terrible in that Washington game, and when it mattered most, he took them right down the field. And yesterday or Sunday, when they gave up the play to Christian Watson, gave a touchdown, he took them right back down the field. So he's been clutch. Just bad things happen to the Bears, man.
We have a redraft. We have a redraft. Daniels went first. What quarterback are you taking second?
I think, man, if they reshuffled the deck and we just seen this point, does not May get steam for first?
I think Daniels will still be first.
May is
I was
so
thinking it might be
fucking
May,
good,
but
man.
May
I was
is
thinking maybe the
amazing.
second guy. I think you jumped to one.
And May's the
possibly.
youngest dude. May's only 21.
Interesting. I did not expect to hear that take. I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know. But
I mean, I just feel like May has like all the stuff like if you were making a quarterback, man. Like he does like a little bit of everything.
That's what's so frustrating about their wide receivers, that we keep jamming these cheap guys in and they keep rotating them. But May like doesn't have a favorite really. He's so good that he just extends the play and then finds the open guy.
all right, let's talk receivers. Rich,
I think that this class is going to be fine though. In hindsight, like with the further we move away from it, and we'll see what happens with Penix when he finally gets a chance to play. But
I forgot about him. Yeah, that's right.
Remember, I told you he was coming in during the drive, and you're like, "Why would they bet?" I was like, "No, I just mean for this drive. I meant for like the rest of this quarter."
I was confused. I'm like, wait, he's going to be like taking. I know Kirk like can't move these days, but yeah, I was a little thrown off when you wrote that. You were right. He did jump in the game though and mopped up. Receivers, Rich, who's on your list?
Game was a blowout. Well, we talked about Evans. We somehow got to Dunze. We talked about Downs, the guy at JSN. I guess we got to talk about Neighbors, I guess, right? It's the only guy we didn't talk about in that game.
Why not?
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Tommy DeVito, when he played last year, took a shitload of sacks, but at least he was accurate. He only had a 7.9 inaccurate throw rate. It was 5th in the league among all passers, the 100 more attempts last year. He was 3rd in inaccurate throw rate to wide receivers, none of whom were as good as Malik Neighbors last year. So, I mean, we're still seeing a guy that's got a 32% target share. It's 4th in the league in terms of targets per route run. So we know the volume's there. Zion McCollum did not practice out of the bye yet, so I assume he's not going to be back this weekend. And Tampa Bay has been flooded by outside receivers this season. They allowed 8.6 catches per game to outside receivers. It's 31st. They're 27th in touchdown rate. So Neighbors, I think more so on DraftKings than FanDuel, he is more appealing because I think if he catches a lot of passes, it's going to be a lot of the variety he was getting. Like you're getting a lot of those. Like he could be a guy that has like 9 for 95 or something, right? Something like that. And that's a lot more further on DraftKings. And we got to keep bringing up Calvin Ridley, I think, too. Just because he's getting so much value, man. I mean, he's got, since the DeAndre Hopkins trade, 33% of the team targets and 52% of the air yards. He had a 51-yard touchdown called back again on the illegal shift. Like, the illegal shift. Like, God, man.
Enough of it.
We got to stop this. And then the Texans are a good pass defense, but when they give up pass plays, they give up huge pass plays. And that's Calvin Ridley's MO, right? They've only allowed a league low 56% catch rate to opposing wide receivers, but they are 30th in touchdown rate allowed to wide receivers and 26th in yards per catch. They've allowed a league high 11 touchdowns to wide receivers from outside of the red zone. Kevontae Turpin even had one on Monday night. So those are the other guys I had written down.
By the way, for season-long leagues, fantasy playoffs, Calvin Ridley, if your trade deadline's still out there, Bengals, Colts, and Jaguars in the fantasy postseason. It's going to get hot.
That's pretty tasty. But on your, not to keep beating this point, on the illegal shift thing, why not just blow the play dead? Like, why even play it out? If they have an illegal shift and they have a penalty and there's nothing the offensive can do positively, and if there's a great play, it just gets called back, just blow the whistle and put it like a false start. They do sometimes, right? I don't know. Is there something I'm missing? Well, why are they not just blowing that play dead? I'm confused.
Because they hate us, Steve. They're not all have nice things.
Take it up with the rules committee. Like, I don't want to see how it would have played out because it would have been great, and I don't want to see that. I didn't want to see Taysom Hill get like an 80-yard touchdown. I didn't want to see that when I had a whole bunch of Taysom Hill.
At least that one was like a real penalty. Like, Taysom probably, or maybe he does still score a touchdown without the hold, but like that's a holding penalty out in the open. Like this illegal shift didn't impact the play. Like this play with Nico Collins or Laramie Tunsil's 1 yard further than he should be downfield. Who gives a shit?
It really has to stop. Is it Tomlin who's on the rules committee? There's several coaches that have been around forever that are on the rules committee. I don't remember who it is, but yeah, somebody's got to get in that room and knock some sense into them. I just
feel like there's always like 1 year where like they have a penalty and you're like, we're going to emphasize this year. And it just feels that illegal man downfield is it, man. It just feels like that's the one that they instilled in like all the things on the offseason, all these crews to say like, dude, we're cracking down on this.
And nobody watching football is like, you know what they need to do? They need to call that. Look at that offensive lineman. That's egregious. He's 4 yards past line of scrimmage. All right, John, receivers. What do you got?
Let's see who we talked about so far. Ridley, Cortland Sutton's price doesn't move on DraftKings, just still stays 5.8 every single week. And yet for a month straight, he hasn't dipped below 25% of the team's targets. So I think he's interesting in this game, depending on how you want to play the Broncos offense, because it seems like we need to play the Broncos offense somewhere. And then my cheapie special 4-2. But if we do think it's an easier offense, we do think Jaden Daniels is over the rib injury, I think it is time to go to Noah Brown. Greater men have tried Noah Brown many weeks this year, and it's failed miserably. But he has out-targeted Terry McLaurin in each of their last 3 games. This dude has shown, since he's returned from injury, he's even capable of earning 30% of the team's targets. He's getting peppered. But we need, again, you have to play it before you see it, especially at 4-2. We need the offense change as a whole. We need the Jaden Daniels to be healthy, but I think the Cowboys can get everyone there. So I am definitely going to play Noah Brown in tournaments as well.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that when we were dragging Cliff for his Thursday night game, but again, very clear. You don't move Terry McLaurin around. He played 37 snaps at left wide receiver, 1 at right wide receiver on Thursday night. Dude, do something different. Like you have to find a way to creatively get one of your best football players the football. And if he's getting boxed out by Quinyon Mitchell, again, that's a whole nother different set of problems. But like, do something creative, do anything creative. And man, at least like when you look at this matchup too, it does set up for Noah Brown in that regard, because Cowboys have been getting smoked at right wide receiver this year.
I did try Brown several times, did not work. I was not there when he sucked out on the Hail Mary, which did not go in the end zone. It was at the 1, right, Rich? I think it was tipped at the 1 or 2.
Well, the ball, like the receiver caught it in the end zone, so I think they still count it. I don't know.
I don't know that officially counts, but yeah, maybe I'll be back. I want to pick on Dallas for sure. Is it too thin? Is like Zacchaeus, McCaffrey, Brown? Like
those guys aren't playing enough.
You can't play those guys, right?
They're just not playing enough.
Yeah.
Just looking at their cheaper stuff. And
it's Brown, Ertz, McLaurin, Robinson, and Daniels. If you think they keep Eckler involved out of the backfield, again, maybe it's the defenses. Maybe it was the rib injury. I don't know. But given that he ran the ball so much, it may be not because of that. But I think Eckler's the one that's becoming fringe this week. But like, dude, like the Cowboys game, that's why showdown slates, by the way, tangent is so frustrating, because you can run the sims, you can play with all the projections all you want, like I did. But then some dude taking a shit that night said Joe Mixon's going to score 3 touchdowns and nothing matters. Like it just played out exactly as everyone thought it was going to play out. So this game is probably going to be a 40 or 50 point dunk on the Cowboys, and then we get Trey Lance on Thanksgiving.
Showdown strategy is so wild because it's like, well, this play is too good. You can't play him. This guy stinks. You got to lock him in.
Rich, you don't play much Showdown, right?
I don't play any Showdown because it's just, I don't have the brain capacity to play to make bad plays. And sometimes this is a problem for me in large field tournaments too, where I'm like, this is objectively a bad decision.
We've actually never talked about this like behind the scenes, but that's why I guess that you didn't, because like you have to make some dumbass plays to be unique.
And I'm just
there's
not
no way you can do
that way.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's you're a special breed.
It takes a special brain. It does, yeah.
And I love gambling, but I can put that back on the table.
You got to summon your inner Costanza, right? Do the opposite, whatever your natural inclination is, and if that's incorrect, then that's how you got to play Showdown, I think.
Yeah.
But it is like, again, in ownership, it's a wild game, and I only dabble in the Showdown streets. I don't know how hard you go with Showdown, Daigle.
No, I don't go hard, but I do.
TJ's the Showdown god, right? Like he's the beast.
He does some shows some shows here sometimes, so. He probably can speak more to that.
Pimp your stuff, TJ. Let them know where they can find your Showdown stuff.
Let them know which show they can find you on. No, but since I write the Showdown matchups or the primetime matchups for ETR, then I play the Showdown because I already have the game broken down. So I'll just play it through my brain. But then through my brain, I then start running the sims, and I'm like, oh, that's not what I wrote at all, because Jalen Reagor's 200 and he lets you do everything else on the slate. So it's just stupid. It's so stupid.
who was the Cowboys like $200 receiver this past week? And I'm like, who's?
We all played Ryan Flournoy. Yeah.
There you go.
Nice.
I learned of his existence.
Although his nickname is Superman because he's such an elite athlete. So like when you get a chance to play $200 Superman, you got to do it.
Cam Newton had squatter rights, right? Like we're not allowed to have him.
That's true.
We're not allowed to have him.
I don't envision Flournoy ripping his.
Remember when Kaepernick did the Superman? He scored in Carolina.
By the way, there are some
more of that. More guys stealing celebrations.
There are some nights I'll sit around and I'll just be at home reading a book or something. I've had a few beers and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch Kaepernick and Lambeau again and just see how that looks. And dude, that game was so much fun.
Do you remember when T.O. did the Ray Lewis dance? Like,
of course.
Let's do some stuff like that.
Doesn't Josh Allen get compared to like certain Superman games? I guess he starts running a little bit more. I feel like is that a thing? Am I just making that up in my head?
Or maybe making it up. A better passer. Like,
well, yeah, but like, yeah, sure. All right, let's end strong on tight ends, John. Who do you have at tight? Oh, I see a no. Do you want to pass? What do you got for me?
I got two guys. Let's go to the top. Let's go to the bottom. Let's go to the top and Travis Kelce. We haven't talked about the Chiefs being 10.5-point favorites, a game they're going to dominate against the Panthers, most likely coming out of their bye. Panthers allowing the most points per game to opposing tight ends. Again, if you don't think last week was just because Travis Kelce has fallen down, a blip on the radar, you think it's because they were just trying things out, I would expect yet again Travis Kelce to dominate in this spot. If you want to go all the way down, I bet the cash game play of the week, Dean, you can tell me, is Luke Schoonmaker, because now we've seen 2 games where Jake Ferguson was injured. And even from Cooper Rush this past week, it's been 10 and 6 targets in those 2 games. The 6 targets on 50 dropbacks, I understand for Rush, but still, it's been at least 14% of the team's targets in both contests as a high floor option.
Are we for sure Ferguson's out? I see a concussion protocol. We're assuming he's not going to play.
Short week concussion.
Yeah,
I believe the quote from McCarthy was that it's not looking good. And when you say that on Monday, that means you're out.
37% of the lineups at 2.5K is Schoonmaker. 30% Ertz, 15% Kelsey, 15% Henry, 12% Schultz. 5% Bowers makes me think maybe he's interesting in tournaments because that guy is just amazing.
Dude, every week this season, I swear to God, I've tried to say like maybe the play is just to pay up at tight end, and it never works when I do it. It never works.
Do you have any super secret names? Do you have a take on Schumacher?
Because if we're playing Broncos, we got to have someone, and we're not going to play. Myers had a decent game against the Broncos, but like we don't play receivers against the Broncos. So Bowers would be the one guy. They do funnel some stuff to tight ends. I tried to do it with Kyle Pitts last week. Didn't happen. But do you realize that he's about to pass Jamar Chase for the reception lead in the NFL? Because Chase is going on bye. Bowers already had his bye. He's 3 catches behind Jamar Chase as a rookie tight end.
That's insane.
Didn't realize that.
He's about to, what's the record show, Dean? We're like, Zach Ertz has the record for tight end receptions in a season, 116 back in 2018. Dude, this is coming down.
I would not have guessed it was Zach Ertz. I don't know who I would have went with. I would have not went Zach Ertz.
You probably would say like Kelsey, right? With the added games, like maybe.
Yeah.
But dude, Brock Bowers is a rookie. He's about to break that record. And now he's scoring touchdowns.
And look at his quarterbacks. Like doing it despite.
I mean, to be fair, some of this has helped him because like his target share is insane.
Yeah.
But dude's a baller. There's a reason the only 2-time FM Mackey award winner is balling.
Shout out Silva. So it's also a Silva theme for the show. There you go.
We are everyone's favorite movie betting and record podcast. So yes, this checks out.
There's 2 out there, and the other one stinks. Speaking of tight ends, they all kind of stink. I don't hear any enthusiasm.
If you like my rule this year is if you like a guy, then do it. If you like a tight, I'm not pushed back anyone's favorite tight end.
Even Brock Wright won the Millie last week, 5 yards. So sure, why the hell not? Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah.
Ertz isn't bad if everyone gets to Ertz. I mean, if Schoonmaker starts, you just play him. But if Ertz gets to, like, he's now had 8 targets in 6 of his last 7 games, the dude just gets peppered, all of them. And everyone's going to get there against the Cowboys. Literally everyone.
What about Jonnu? I know his numbers kind of got inflated by that last play of the game. Is he somebody worth
What a
talking about?
hilarious play.
Just wide.
There's no way I'm sliding. No, I'm getting in that end zone. I'm scoring that touchdown. Yeah.
Someone in my chat brought up Jonnu, and I was like, if you're building Tua stacks, it makes sense because my whole thing with Tua last week was to not force the wide receivers into his stacks. I tried to do like Tua plus Achane, and it's like, well, Jonnu's another way to get there. And that's kind of on the board too, right? Like, I think Tyreek is playable, but he's been so expensive.
Normally, though,
I was going to mention that.
In past years, we wouldn't say 7K, at least on DraftKings. We wouldn't say 7K is expensive, but
dude,
this
the Dolphins
year,
don't throw the ball downfield. Even last week, as good as the Dolphins were, and as they've been since Tua, dude, like every drive takes like 8 minutes off the clock. Every set of downs gets the third down. I feel like every Dolphins play, like set of downs, it's like 3rd and 3, and then they convert and they run another 6 minutes off the clock. It's like how their offense is kind of operated with Tua being back. But if there was a spot for Tyreek, dude, this Patriots defense is not good at all. This secondary, there was smoke early in the season about like Christian Gonzalez. You want to avoid guys against Christian Gonzalez. Dude, they're getting destroyed by wide receiver ones this year. Dude, like Cooper Kupp walked in from 60 yards away last week. No one even was in on the screen. I think so. And Tyreek almost had a really good game against them earlier in the year with Huntley. He had a touchdown get called back where he got a second foot out of bounds. So maybe Tyreek is actually in play this week.
Yeah, I made a point to look. You guys probably like 60 air yards or so last week. Like he's just not getting stuff downhill. And I was curious about maybe like they're not throwing them deep because of the wrist. Possibly it's harder to catch deep balls. I don't know.
No, that's their offense.
Yeah,
that's their offense here.
They're not throwing downfield at all.
It's almost as if like Rich said, Tua literally leads the league in time from snap to throw. Like they just get rid of the ball quickly. It's almost as if Mike McDaniels is protecting Tua for him. They are just one read offense this year, and that's not fun. They're spreading it out more. Like last year, Tyreek led the team in target share from Tua at 31%. This year, he leads the team in target share from Tua at 20% because they're just spreading it out everywhere now.
You could tell that, and that's an interesting theory. I haven't heard that, but you could tell McDaniel. Remember when Tua got hurt and he kissed him on the forehead, and you're like, these guys, he just really likes him. Like they have like a good relationship. Maybe
he's a great guy.
Subconsciously, he just doesn't want to. Like nobody wants Tua to get hurt, but maybe he's trying to protect him. That's an interesting theory.
As someone that had a lot of Achane last week versus Kamara as like the one because Kamara ended up being the chalk play on FanDuel, and like the first quarter of that game, each team had the ball once, and I was like, I was like, this ain't good. It's like because like the Dolphins' first drive of the game was like 8 minutes, and they didn't stop the Raiders, and I was like, we need more than one possession per quarter.
Whereas Jared Goff gets 7 possessions and scores touchdowns on all of them.
They had 38 first.
They never
downs.
punted. No punts, right? No punts for Detroit. I'm pretty sure they not punt.
I don't.
Carolina has 30 first downs. They're this month in two games. They had 38 last week.
Whenever Goff came out with 4.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, on 4th and 2, I was like, oh, that's what Dan Campbell's doing. Like they're still establishing their identity in this game.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what was the line that was it one of their secondary players beat that ass? Is that we're going to BTA? Is that what he said? Like anybody who's not ready to play against us? Did you see this quote? I think it was one. I didn't recognize the name, but I think it was one of our secondary guys. But basically, you got to be ready to play versus Detroit. Otherwise, we're just going to crush you. And we've said this throughout the show. Go ahead.
To be fair, Detroit deserves it. Those fans deserve it. I mean, a Detroit-Buffalo Super Bowl would absolutely be amazing for vibes. Like
I'm in on it. I'm in. Yeah.
It was like when the Cubs and the Indians played in the World Series a couple years ago. It was everyone like even outside looking and was like, you know what? Cool. That's like how Bills Lions would be.
Shout out Rajai Davis, who would have like the most memorable, one of the more memorable homers in baseball. Like it just they didn't blow it in the next inning, or
I'm still, they have enough weapons. I'm still just worried about Goff when we get to January and he has to play one of these outdoor playoff games. It just seems like it's all going to backfire yet again.
Be playing our playoff games.
Where's
that's
the Super
true.
Bowl?
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Super Bowl in the Dome this year. Do we know?
Superdome.
It's in New Orleans.
Okay. All right.
That's New Orleans. Yeah. But I mean, they have to get there. They still have to get there.
I'm outright telling you guys, I'm gonna nix it right now that I'm cheering for Bills Lions. So I know that's not happening. I'm sorry to ruin it for everybody.
I still think it's gonna be boring Chiefs Eagles, but dude, I'm in. I'm in for Lions. That'd be a lot of fun.
As a neutral fan, I think Buffalo and Detroit is awesome. I think that's a great storyline. But all right, let's go ahead and bring in. That's the show. We gave you guys an hour and 40 minutes. An hour and 40 minutes on week 12. We'll figure out next week as far as what we're going to do when it comes to Thanksgiving.
We've always done it though. We've always done this show the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
We always, we always do it. We always talk about the Thanksgiving slate because it's a fun slate, especially when Tommy DeVito is involved. And then we branch off, and positional plays basically becomes the Sunday slate since Rich and I have to work ahead of time for Sunday. And then we talk about a movie.
I mean, there is no way too on that Thanksgiving slate that's not the most tilting game for everyone because it's literally going to be a preseason game.
Yeah.
It's like a preseason game sandwiched in the middle of that. Like anything can happen in that game.
It's going to be bad. It's gonna be bad.
But it could be just wild card. It could be wild card shit, dude. Like Theo Johnson might have 2 touchdowns, dude.
Can we get a picture of just Jerry Jones in the bottom at all times? Like, why can he not be in the bottom corner of my screen? I want to see him at all times. Is that weird? Is that weird to request that? We have the technology for it. Like, why not make a channel just for that? I want to watch him at all times, watching his Cowboys.
For us to be here next Wednesday in some capacity.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Not on Christmas.
If you don't want to hear us talk about movies specifically, we're going to be talking about a movie chosen by Rob. We'll be jumping in momentarily. I imagine TJ's Large will be jumping in it as well. We're going to be discussing what's up, TJ. TJ won our movie contest this week. He'll tell us what we're watching next week. But Rob, you chose Let the Right One In. Why did you choose that? Are we excited to talk about it?
Well, we briefly brought it up a couple weeks back, and I felt like we needed to cleanse some of the movies that we've watched with a better movie. So I picked this one.
Fair enough. TJ, welcome.
My wife was really mad at us after last week's show, by the way.
After the substance.
She was like, I can't believe that those dudes like that movie.
So she didn't like it as far as art or any capacity. She didn't like it at all. Okay, fair enough. All right. There's 2 different versions. Let the Right One In. TJ, were you able to? I know you were trying to watch the entire movie. Were you able to squeeze it in? Did you get the whole thing in? Hopefully.
I did. I managed to get the last 10 minutes over the course of this show.
You probably missed a good chunk of us talking about. Hopefully, it was like tight end conversation. You didn't miss anything. But looking forward to talking about Let the Right One In. I'll give you a brief synopsis. There are 2 different versions of this. I think the American version is also called Let the Right One In, which came out some years later. Let Me In. Thank you. Let Me In. This is from 2008. It's R-rated. It's unless you understand Swedish, you got to read because there's subtitles. Here is the Rotten Tomatoes summary. When Oscar, a sensitive, bullied 12-year-old boy living with his mother in suburban Sweden, meets his new neighbor, the mysterious and moody Ellie, they strike up a friendship. Initially reserved with each other, Oscar and Ellie form a close bond, but it soon becomes apparent that she is no ordinary young girl. Eventually, Ellie shares her dark secret with Oscar, revealing her connection to a string of bloody local murders. Why don't they say vampire in that? Why is vampire not mentioned in that? We're afraid to say vampire, Rob, but why would that not be in the
Because synopsis? That's the reveal. That's the reveal. That's if you go in this without knowing, that becomes the reveal of the movie. And that was what Abigail, the movie that came out this year, I believe it was this year, did poorly.
Spoiler.
They revealed it in the trailer. That's the only reason why I'm saying it is they show you in the trailer. But I mean, Abigail's the inverse of this movie. Abigail's fun, but not good. This movie, I think, not
that fun, but good.
Right? Oh, yes.
It's not a heck of a lot of fun. I don't think that there's parts that are fun, but I'll throw it to John. I'm curious to get your take. Is this movie fun? Is it good? Is it both? Is it neither?
It's a cool movie, which, given the thesis and the theme and everything, you wouldn't compare it to that. I just think it's really well done. Honestly, I think the character acting, even for child acting, is very good. I think the story is well told as well. And it's the kind of horror I enjoy where it's not jump out. It's not like trying to rip your heart out. It's just like haunting, not horror. It's just creepy throughout the movie, even with the reveal in the end with the pool scene, which I'm sure we'll talk about. So yeah, no, I thought this movie was just kind of fun, awesome, honestly.
TJ, you watched it most recently. Well, what's your take? It's fresh in your mind.
I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. I agree with Daigle's take, like very cool, like very interestingly made from a cinematography standpoint. I agree. I think the acting was really good. I was more interested than I thought I was going to be. Usually like kind of slower paced, not even slow paced because the pace wasn't that slow, but like just very quiet, slow moving scenes throughout. Yeah. Usually that kind of isn't my style of film, but I thought it was really well done, and it actually kept me intrigued throughout the entirety of the movie.
Rich, and did your wife just like give up on watching movies with you? Was she back?
No, it's a bummer because I finished this literally at like 7:30 before we got on, and I actually told her, I was like, I think you missed. I think you would have liked it actually. I was like, we actually watched like a pretty good movie. I was like, so you fought through 10 weeks of us watching shitty movies, and you missed the one that you probably would have liked it. But no, I'll sweep the board here and did like it. I'm very curious because I just finished it. And to go back and kind of revisit some stuff, or maybe Rob will just fill me in on it because he's probably done this on his show. Have you already reviewed this on the other show?
No, not yet.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm real curious because I'm curious to hear your guys' read on it. Like, was it a situation? Because there's a book this is a book too, right?
Yes,
it might be. Yeah, I did not read the book though,
so I don't know how accurate it is for the book, but I'm curious your guys' read of like, was it a manipulation tactic, or was there like a genuine relationship in the closing of the movie?
Yeah.
But I'm curious about your guys' feelings on that. But I'm very curious to watch the American version because I saw Matt Reeves directed it, which is pretty interesting, and I'm also curious too, just to get a little more. Maybe that was lost in translation from the version. My one very minor quibble with the original version is that it's a little stiffer with the dialogue. Not very much like it's. I don't need a movie to be exposition rich, but the conversations outside of the two main characters were just kind of like very rigid, and it was like kind of not a lot of depth there. But I'm curious if there's more of that in the American version. More like to kind of give you some of the hints to the backstory to have the proper read on it, or maybe it's just ambiguous.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know that the American remake is almost like a shot-for-shot remake, not entirely. So maybe they do give you a little bit more context. I think this is a top 5 horror movie for me of all time, probably. I would say I'm very much into the vampire genre, and when it's done well, and I don't know if it's ever been done quite as well as this movie, where we know what vampires are, right? Like we know the rules and stuff, and they don't beat you over the head with what the rules of that it is. Like you don't get an exposition dump on it. Just when things happen, you're like, oh yeah, I know that's gonna happen. Like that happens because they're vampires. So I like that. This is more of like a lean-in horror where you're just like slowly like leaning towards the screen, watching everything that happens. It really envelops you, even though it is in Swedish. That's what I like about it. The atmosphere is just always kind of murky. Like everything I think about this movie is shot really well. The music is great. Just, I love everything. And the child acting, like you said, that can be a real hit or miss. Sometimes the child acting, and fair enough, they're young. It's tough for anybody to act, never mind, children. So they really nail it in this movie, and they play their parts so well. The main two leads on this, just everything. And what you brought up, Rich, that I still go back and forth on it. So it's still a back and forth for me on that. I think it's sort of she's manipulating him more so than not, because the key scene for me is when the older gentleman that she's had for a while asked not for him to see her. It seems like a jealousy thing. So it feels like maybe they had a relationship like that at one point in time, and she knows that he's getting older and he's starting to slip a little bit. And when it's time for him to go away, there's no emotion for that vampire. She just gets rid of him, like pretty much with no emotion at all. So I'm back and forth on it because it could that's a vampire thing, right? They try to manipulate you. So it's just so well done.
I like that she's perpetually, or not even I guess it's not even a she, right? It's a dude.
It's androgynous, yeah.
And but has to stay forever as like a 12-year-old.
Right.
I would almost imagine it's like when you turned, that's where you stay, is whatever age you were when you turned. But what I kind of like, I really like Rob's take on it, is that's kind of the relationship with the older guy, is the sort of half reveal on how to think about that their relationship later on. But I almost don't really care, because like from his standpoint, I was cheering for them. Like I was cheering for them to just like mess everybody up, like, and I feel like he's found in his new goth girlfriend, and whether he's being manipulated or not, he's probably going to enjoy his time with her more than what he had at his little school anyways.
They're going steady.
And then Dean, you can go because we haven't heard from you yet, but yeah, it is like very homoerotic. Like it's a romance novel wrapped inside of a horror, which is also why it's kind of haunting. Apparently, because I did look into it, the book also, they're very clear about the circumcision of the androgynous female. They go into a lot more explicit details in the novel, but I was hoping Rob had more reviews or something from that stuff.
No, unfortunately, I don't. I've only seen the movies. But now I will probably see if I can get an audiobook of the actual book and listen to it.
I think that's the reason why I listened to somebody give a review. I listened to one review and they talked about the book and how it might have been, I can't remember if it was a male character or like more masculine or more like androgynous. And that's also the reason why Ellie is the name, where I guess it doesn't necessarily steer in one direction per se. I thought this was kind of like a slow burn.
Like with the way the subtitles, like the way it's spelled, right? It's ELI. It's like it could be Eli, depending on how you're pronouncing it in what language,
I think this is a slow burn kind of movie because it takes a while to get there. But like we were talking to TJ before the show, and he's like, "Yeah, I still have like 10 minutes left." I'm like, you got to watch these last 10 minutes. The dismount, the ending is the movie. However I felt about this movie, and I thought it was perfectly fine and whatever. It's like it moves up more than incrementally because of the ending. The pool scene just is spectacular. The way that's shot is so good. So if I felt it was here, then it definitely moves up a level. And I think it gives you a payoff. It gives you a payoff for sticking around. So I really like that scene. I saw this movie like 15 years ago or 10 years ago when it came out. And that's like the one thing I remember. I'm like, I remember there's a really cool pool scene. That's all I really remembered about it. And I'm like, and the whole time, I'm like, there's 15 minutes left. Is there no pool scene? Is that not happening? It's like, oh yeah, here it is.
I hadn't seen it in a while myself. I hadn't seen it in a while myself, so I thought it was good to revisit it. And I'm like, man, I remembered loving this movie, and I think 10 years later, I love it even more on the rewatch than the original watch. So, yeah.
And you watched them both? You watched the other one?
Yeah, like way back when it first came out. I'm gonna rewatch that one
because I saw it was one of Matt Reeves' first movie, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's Chloe Grace.
Moretz.
Moretz. She's in it. But I remember liking both of them a lot, but liking the original a little bit better.
It feels unique and interesting enough, definitely. I'm interested in going back and watching the other one as well. Yeah.
By the way, you guys mentioned the child actors being good actors. I thought they were fine too. I was curious, like, did these people become stars in Sweden? No. Like they
usually don't. Most don't. Like right.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to them. I hope they're well. But I was looking at their IMDb stuff, and like both of their careers basically stopped like in 2014. Like they were in like 4 or 5 projects, and that's it.
It's also Sweden. Like how much work are they getting in Sweden?
I don't know. There's got to be IKEA commercials or something. Something's got to be available. I don't know what they're doing in Sweden.
IKEA commercials, so good.
It's huge there. That's my understanding. Yeah. TJ, do you think they stuck the landing? Are you happy you caught the last 15 minutes?
Yeah, I am. It was interesting. I admit I wasn't as tuned in as I otherwise could have been. I was watching on my computer in a way of legality that I would rather not disclose as I was trying to get to the end of it, because
legally watching on your computer.
The only way that I could find it, because even though Google said that it was on Prime Video in Canada, it just wasn't. Even for purchase or for rent, but I found it on I could buy it on Apple for $13, or I could rent it on Xbox for $3.99. So I rented it, and I didn't want to have to go upstairs and watch on my in my bedroom TV while I was producing the show. And so, especially because my dog, I had to take him to the vet today, and he seems like the vet's confident he's going to be fine, but he's on some heavy painkillers and his back is messed up. So he's not supposed to go up or down the stairs, and he just follows me wherever I go. And so I didn't want him to be going up and down the stairs over the course of while I was producing this show. So I managed to find it on my computer, but I don't feel bad for watching the last 10 minutes illegally because I actually paid to rent it.
By the way, in America, this is playing. If you're curious, you're listening, you want to watch this. Hopefully we didn't spoil it for you. But if you want to watch it, it's on Peacock. It's on Peacock right now for free if you guys have Peacock. Also, I'm sure you guys noticed, Peacock ruins the Rotten Tomato games. It just tells you right there on the screen what the Rotten Tomato scores.
Yeah.
I was going to take myself out of the game.
Yeah, same.
It was on Prime.
Oh,
you watched it on Prime?
Oh, okay. I watched it on Peacock.
Yeah, I watched it on Peacock.
I was going to disqualify myself, Dean, because I saw the scores.
The other thing, by the way, just a side note, if Peacock does not give you the Rotten Tomato score, which it doesn't always, you know why? Because it doesn't give you the bad ones. If it's a 12, it's not going to tell you it's a 12. So just if you're watching Peacock, where's the Rotten Tomato score? Oh, this is going to stink. This is going to be really bad. Not that the Rotten Tomatoes end all be all, but they're not going to promote this is a 12. I think that's what they do. Maybe I'm wrong. I know somebody else does that. I could be incorrect, but one of those companies withholds the terrible scores.
What a life hack.
Yeah. For the record, by the way, on Rotten Tomatoes, 98. It's a 98 on Rotten Tomatoes according to the critics. And did you not see it, Rich? I'm sorry.
I watched on Prime.
Yeah, that's right.
I wasn't going to get 98.
That's a big number. 193 reviews, 98, and the audience.
Not that I was going to guess anything bad, but I wasn't going to guess 98.
It doesn't show the audience on Peacock, though, does it?
It did both.
Did it?
Yeah,
I only remember the 98.
Oh, I remember the other one.
Recusing himself. He didn't want to taint the pool here. You could have binked it just for fun and to impress everybody, but no. What's the fun in that? So 98, 90. Let's go ahead and guess the IMDb score, which is not exposed anywhere that I watched. But Rich, you're going to go first. IMDb 1 through 10. What do you got?
I'll say 7.7.
Well, that was going to be my guess.
Ooh,
well,
you can double down.
Give me the next decimal.
7.8.
Oh yeah, okay, 7.8. I mean 7.72. Yeah, okay, 7.8 from TJ. John, what do you got?
I know anything over 8 is really high, but gosh, if Rotten Tomatoes gives it those scores, I'll go 8.1.
Rob?
7.5.
And TJ got it right in the nose. 7.8. Yeah, nothing we can do about it. Now we're gonna give our personal scores. TJ, have you thought of have you had the time to digest? You have a superhero?
Go. You always try and get me first, and I always forget to even think of one. And so,
I assume you're prepared for the show.
I wasn't. I finished the movie while we were live on air for this show. Why would you assume I was prepared?
You can't blame us for your scoring system. You came up with it.
Yeah,
it's your system. Into it. You
made it complicated intentionally. Okay, watch this, TJ. You ready? Rich, do you have a tight end for us?
I do. But I thought about being cheeky and going vampire route and doing something with that, just a guy that caught a bunch of short touchdowns, like Bubba Franks. But I appreciated the movie. I enjoyed it. I thought it was very underrated. It was a little gem. And the tight end that I believe is the most underrated tight end in NFL history is Ben Winter-Coates. So, and this movie is very cold. This movie made me cold. I felt like I needed a blanket watching this movie. I was like, I feel cold watching this. So I feel it's very apropos for being the winter coats pun. And then the fact that I do believe Ben Coates is the most underrated tight end in NFL history.
I was thinking if there was a tight end, you know how Kirk Cousins bad at night, is there any tight end historically been good in night games? I know there is somebody, but I was curious if you were trying to go that route, but all right, Rob, you got a number for me? 1 through 5, right?
Yeah, this is a 5 out of 5 for me. This is one of my rare perfect scores. No notes.
It's great.
Hey, since we're here, what are your other 4? You said it's one of your top 5 horror movies or movies all time, just in general?
Top 5 horror movies. It would probably get into my top 20. I'd really have to think about it. I'm just throwing numbers out there. But I can tell you that the other horror movie that I would definitely have in my top 5 of horror movies is The Thing. I think that's just one of the best movies ever made. Personally, another movie that makes you think. Really good movie. We get this question a lot, and I've never actually sat down and thought about it, but those two for sure would be in my top 5.
Okay. I thought you had like a 5 also as far as this horror in general prepared, but that's probably pretty tricky too. But because I know you're delving into this world often. Yeah. John, are we running out of vampire themed wrestlers in all the vampire movies we're doing?
Not. Dean, there's a lot of wrestling to talk about. If you ever want to sit down one day, we already used Gangrel, of course, for Blade. Sure. But this one actually makes sense because it's a really good film, great film. I loved it a lot, but it's also unique. It's under the radar because it is the Swedish version. So it is easy to pick a vampire wrestler, but because he never made it, Vampiro never made it to WWE, backed out last second, joined WCW, but before the invasion, when Vince McMahon bought both, did not join WWE, instead went to NWA. So Vampiro is my pick.
And then went to Wrestling Society X and CMLL, I believe. Yeah.
I got Kevin Thorne
abbreviations now.
If you have one more vampire movie, Kevin Thorne, it might be an option. I don't know if he was what his wrestling career
not good. But that would have to be like a 0 out of.
Yeah. What's the shittiest vampire movie we know?
That's Kevin
Vampire
Thorne.
in Brooklyn. I don't know. That's
that's
good?
A great movie. We talked about Bordello.
I believe it's just called. The movie is just called Cirque du Freak. Cirque du Freak.
But, what's the Jim Carrey star one? Once Bitten.
It's based on a novel series that I just loved as a kid. Absolutely loved it. And the movie has like, I'll see if I can pull it up. Like, it's just one of the most insane casts you'll ever.
Yeah, it's John C. Reilly, right?
Yeah, you'll ever see. But the movie is
Orlando Jones.
So bad. All right, here, let's share the screen.
Salma Hayek, Willem Dafoe.
I've ever seen, and I was so disappointed because I like the books were incredible. Like the cast is so good, and just one of the worst movies. Willem Dafoe randomly in it.
Oh my goodness!
Oh yeah,
yeah, not good.
Maybe that's the movie I should pick.
Maybe.
TJ, we have one more thing we got to give you. Did we give you enough time? Have you thought of a superhero?
Yeah. The two things I usually try and utilize as the criteria is one, being able to relate the character to the movie in some way, and two, if it's a really shitty movie, I don't want to give a really cool character. But because this is a really good movie, I don't mind giving it a cool character. And so the show that I watched growing up, it wasn't a comic, it was an animated show that really made me fall in love with superheroes, was the 90s Spider-Man the animated series. And in that show, the Black Cat, Felicia Hardy, falls in love with a vampire, Morbius. And so I'm going with the Black Cat because the main character of this movie is also Lil Blondie, who falls in love with a vampire.
And I will give it I score it of 100. I'll give it a.
This is my favorite of all the creativity we have. This is
I know, dude. All these bits, and Dean's like, I'm going back to the metric system.
I don't know how quick I'm going to be to watch this again. I'm glad I watched it again. I think it's good. It's a very good movie. It's well done. A little slow, but I think you get the payoff. I like the payoff. I'm going to give it a 70, which essentially amounts to, on Rob's scale, I'm doing the quick UCF math, like a 3.5. So it's not 100 as Rob might consider, but yeah, I thought it was really good. It seems like we all liked it. TJ, pressure's on. We got to keep the momentum going forward. You won. You said you had several movies in mind. Fire away. What do you got?
So first one on the list, and it's basically just going on. If too many people have seen it, then we're moving on to the next one. But first movie choice would be Tick, Tick, Boom.
That's a musical.
Who's in
right?
it?
Andrew Garfield is the main.
Oh, then I knew the name, but I have not seen it.
It's a musical?
It is. It's a musical autobiography, kind of.
Yeah, I've definitely not seen it.
No.
Then that's the one. I am neutral to musicals. I don't like or dislike them. Andrew Garfield is my favorite actor. But this movie made me feel things I've never felt before watching a movie. Just like the way they talk about certain issues, the way it it's not even done in exposition, but the way they portray various mental health related aspects of a creative genius, I found so incredibly interesting.
Are you reviewing the movie a week in advance?
No, that's a good point.
He's getting us excited for it.
I am just excited to share this movie.
He can tell that myself and Rob are not thrilled the prospect of watching a movie musical.
I don't care about that part because I haven't it's not like we've been picking stuff for my enjoyment. So I don't care about that part.
But you gotta remember, you always gotta be selfish.
I'm happy Rob cut me off because I forgot I wasn't supposed to be pitching it.
Yeah.
Okay. So this came out in 2021. I wasn't sure when it came out as far as the in relation to the Spider-Man stuff, but okay, 2021. All right.
The movie portion when you win is really like when you win around the horn. Like you got to take that time to go on your soliloquy and tell everyone about what you love in life.
All right. So, I've been keeping a list. I have all the movies written down. Maybe the last we'll give like the best and the worst at the end of the year.
Oh, we're gonna rank them. We're gonna do like a season rankings.
Yeah, we'll have a bracket, a bracket or something like that. But maybe we'll figure something out.
So real quick. The Spike Week Discord just found out about our review of Tiptoes. And Eric especially was talking about it because he thought it was hilarious and our review was hilarious. And he the next day after listening to our review saw Matthew McConaughey on a podcast where
he was on
Two Bears, One Cave.
Two Bears, One Cave. And have you guys seen that clip of him watching the Tiptoes trailer for the
They hit on the same thing of like in the
he
role of a
kind of took the
lifetime.
high road on it. He didn't swerve into it enough, but it was fine. I wish he would have engaged with it more.
Everyone really loves the role of a lifetime for Gary Oldman. That's the line that gets everybody.
We have someone live tweeting or live posting in the Discord right now as they watch Tiptoes at this moment. So
I watched that whole Tosh did a 40-minute review, and I watched the whole thing at it.
Yeah. So he does that for other movies too. Just like I it's in my algorithm now, Rich. I think you sent it to me or I found it. I don't recall, but I did see Tosh on his old show, and he like 40 minutes, like you said. And then he did one on there was another. He just rips terrible movies apart. And
I think about Tiptoes once a day. And it's not a day goes by where I don't think about Tiptoes on some level.
Like 40 people or like 100 people said. Yes, let's do this. A lot of people had to say.
I mean, there's at least some aspect of that movie, that hat that she wears in that movie. Like, I think about that at least twice a week. Like at least
that was like her lucky hat.
Which one?
That she's got that fucking wizard hat that she's just wearing in her pajamas.
Like all of them, a different hat every scene.
I mean, that movie will forever rent free the rest of my life. Just be I have so many thoughts about that movie.
TJ, were you with us? I think TJ did not have the pleasure of watching Tiptoes. I could be wrong. I think you missed out on it.
I guess you have to go back and watch it since we have to watch it.
You got to go back and watch.
It's in show lore. And if we ever get to be like the Ringer Fantasy Football Podcast, around the league, if we ever get to do a live show together, we're 100% just going to watch Tiptoes and live review it for everyone. That's all we're going to do. We're not going to talk about football at all.
Do you think we can get Dan Bach to front the money for us to remake Tiptoes?
Probably not. Who's going to have the role who's going to star as the guy?
They asked him when they were watching McConaughey, when they watched the trailer, they're like, how is he shooting? So he's just in the couch and they hand him a baby?
It is the most unintentionally hilarious movie. Absolutely.
There's no way McConaughey's tequila is any good, right?
I can't drink tequila, so I'll never know.
I'm not a tequila guy.
I haven't tried it.
I'll find it. Let's see.
You're a tequila guy, Rich?
Yeah. Listen, I'm an alcohol guy.
I'm an everything guy. Yeah.
But I feel like everyone has that one alcohol that they can't drink.
I mean, I think my demographic always from when I grew up was everyone threw up off Jaeger.
Jaeger's mine.
Yeah, I used to crush Jaeger every weekend.
But then you realize, like, once you get into college, Jaeger doesn't exist anywhere. Like, you never even see it ever out in the wild.
Oh, it's so hard to get.
You don't want to get it.
But we grew up in the era where they had to have it because of the My New Haircut video. So at that point, for the next year, everybody had Jaeger in stock because
Red Bull at every bar.
Yeah, which is the worst combination.
Yeah.
I think I'm still awake because of some of those nights.
Even some bars had that contraption. There was like a specialized Jaeger shot. Remember that thing?
Yeah.
I remember
Washington apples got popular too, and then people would pre-make them. And they're like, these are terrible.
Yeah.
I remember waking up in the middle of the night after a night of doing Yag bombs all night, just Red Bull and Yag, and waking up at maybe like 5, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. And after being asleep, my heart was still like just going. And I was like, never again. Never again. This is terrifying.
Dean, I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I'm pretty sure I've already got Rich to do it once, but anytime a bartender asks me, because you're just having a conversation, like, hey, what do you want for a shot? I don't do shots at all because I can't control my body on shots. Whereas if I'm drinking beer, I can understand how much water I need. But I always say Malort. And I don't know if you've heard of Malort, Dean. It is strictly Chicago liquor, but it's basically absinthe that tastes like burnt rubber. It is distilled only in Chicago. It tastes like absolute garbage, but it is like true to the city. And so that is what I explicitly drink here.
This was really just TJ sales pitch for Tick Tick Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you want some burnt rubber? No.
Yeah.
Of course I don't.
It's the Tick Tick Boom of drinks. You in?
What was wrong with my pitch? I know I wasn't supposed to pitch, but what was wrong with the pitch that I gave?
I've seen it. I enjoyed the movie. I'm enjoy revisiting it.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a fair shake, and I'm sure Rob is as well. We got to step aside.
The last thing I wanted to say on it was that he's not like one of the mains, but one of the supporting characters, Michael. He's the main character's best friend. I got to interview him for Agency Fandom, and he was great.
Around the horn. Completed.
Hashtag humble brag.
So your score is compromised, is what you're saying.
I mean, to be fair, he's interviewed a bunch of people now, so
that's true. Are we doing the the plugs and all that kind of stuff that the people know at this point? The people, I mean, Rob, tell the people where they can find you.
Hometown Ghost Story Spike Week.
TJ, is TJ on Blue Sky?
I do have an account there. I haven't utilized it yet, but I've been helping getting all the Agents of Fandom stuff set up so that our feed is mimicking our Twitter and our Facebook and our Threads, etc. feeds. So I do have an account. I think my name there is just TJ Zwarich, but the Agents of Fandom account should be working there in full business and getting all the movie and television news to the people. So it's a good one. It's a good one to follow. Like we kind of started out as just comic book stuff, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, and so I think because of that, a lot of people think that's all that we do. But we've really branched out to just all TV and movie stuff, and so it's really one of the best accounts you can follow for like breaking news of who's cast in what movie and stuff like that.
Just gave you
winner. Are we all going to see Gladiator 2? Can we review that next week too?
I'm going Friday. I'd be down.
I'm going tomorrow.
I'm going Saturday.
I'll try. I'm going to see Heretic tomorrow night, so I'll try to get to
That's
the
the
movies.
most Rob thing I've ever heard.
Rob, will you be seeing Wicked this weekend?
I might try and do Glicked this weekend and do both Gladiator and Wicked.
I will not be seeing Wicked this weekend. Although I told you the girl I'm dating is in theater and she wants to go see it. So
of course.
We'll see.
She's gonna love Tick Tick Boom. I'm pretty sure. Feel pretty confident.
She picked Heretic, so that's why we're going.
Daigle, where can the people find you?
NotJDaigle on Twitter. We are running a Thanksgiving sale on Established to Run as well. So look out for that. And there's a lot of free shit over there this week too. Or next week, I should say. There's going to be a free DFS shows between Levitan, Wiggins, and Silva, and Leone and Dink. Also on the podcast feed, Established to Run, look out because we just released the playoff only rest of season 150. So specifically for weeks 15 through 17, that's what everyone cares about, including me pushing back on all the plebes that stash defenses over running backs. You could go to the episode and tune in there.
Get them.
One last
There's
thing
nothing
before
worse
on
than that
the,
gamer in your league that has like 4 effing defenses right now.
That-
Like, what are you even doing?
Dude, I guarantee you there are people see the Jaguars play the Raiders and they're like, I'm stashing the Jaguars defense. Good luck, buddy. Good luck with that shit.
You're not even going to get the week 17 with that kind of strategy.
Exactly.
Rich, where are the people finding you?
I'm on this show. You can find it every Wednesday at 8.
Tiptoes, roll of a lifetime.
I'll be thinking about tiptoes. I mean, I'm kind of hesitant. I went over to Blue Sky, but like, I kind of like that I don't have followers there. Like Twitter, when I started to get followers, I started not liking it. So I don't know. Find me here.
Perfect amount. What's the perfect number of followers to have? I'm trying to think of this.
7.
Like 2 million is too many, I'm sure, I imagine.
Yeah.
Which
I don't know,
7?
like, yeah, but like, I work for Warren, and Warren tweets stuff, and like, like anyone's replies, I'm like, dude, like, I can't, man, I can't do it because it's not even that I'm too sensitive. I have no self-restraint. So years ago, before even it stopped being the Bird app, they had this feature where you can't see anyone reply to you if they don't follow you. So like, if you tweet something out, like whatever. So I turned that on the second I seen it. So there's a lot of stuff I don't see because I don't have the self-restraint. When someone replies me to something that I don't agree with or I think is stupid, I'm going to reply to it. Sometimes I do it in this chat. That's why I try not to read the chat during the show.
Leave the site
because when they do
mentality.
something, like, so I can't, man.
Nah, man, you gotta have no phone, no case on your phone. You gotta not reply. You just gotta give 0 fucks, Reeves.
I will say one of the best life hacks you can do is just to not put either of these apps on your phone, period, and just do it on your PC. Don't ever, because then you won't. If you don't have it on your phone, you can't open it.
Famous.
One last thing I wanted to bring up before we get out.
Who'd you interview? Who else did you interview, TJ?
Well, nobody yet, but I'm gonna send out Dean his first ever invite to the Agents of Fandom podcast if he's free at noon tomorrow Eastern time.
I'll tune in
because we are having our 2024 projects draft. So like best movie, best TV show. You're gonna have to deep dive into think if you've seen anything animated this year, because 2 categories are animated movie and animated show. But we're drafting our best movies and shows of 2024.
It's funny, TJ was gonna have me on in the off season, and I still haven't watched any show that I was looking forward to.
You gotta get the Penguin.
I know.
I still haven't finished it, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm like 5.
That likely will be the number 1 pick for TV. It'll be
that's the 1-1.
For sure.
Yeah,
it'll be within the first 3.
I thought TJ was just about to start reenacting the entire Tick Tick Boom movie for us before we left.
I do know the words to all the songs. I can start singing it right now if you want to. I did one of them in karaoke when I was at a karaoke bar when I was in New York a couple weeks ago.
Hashtag humble brag.
Any celebrities in the audience when you were singing?
No, just my friends that all got together. It was a good time.
I'll give you this.
We had our own private room, so it wasn't at the
Look
crowd.
At you.
I'll give you this. It took 11 weeks, but you definitely used your spotlight for winning the movie contest. Congratulations.
Shout out to TJ.
I've seen
next
this
week. Movie. Are you playing poker? Did you say you liked it, right? You're not doing a poker face here? Okay. All right. Maybe it's good. I know it was well reviewed, and I think it was up for stuff too. So we'll probably end up liking it. We'll see. We'll discuss it next week, as well as week 13, as well as Thanksgiving slate. Plate is full for sure, but go win something here in week 12 for Rich. I was Dean. That was John. That was TJ. That was Rob. We're out of here. Oh!